Oh, last thing before we kick off, Fletch, the Wi-Fi password. Have you got it, is it?
It's the cloud.
It's the cloud.
Right, so relying on that, excellent connection, that's strong and solid. Nice and nice. So we can leave that value for another. Yes, sorry, that's gone.
Is there a password for the Wi-Fi, or is it just the cloud?
Go on the cloud. Best bet.
Yeah, it's good. It's actually good. It's really good.
So, Ollie, can I suggest we're already because we're not going to need to cut the two. There on that shot, so how much do we need to cut the two?
So Milne's got 3 foot.
We're in no massive hurry. We're in no massive hurry to it. No math yet. It's going to be done within. So, oh, that good. Is that the right shot? Are we good on that? Yeah. Do you want me to go live? No. Do you want me to go on?
One two one two one two one two. 1 2 1 2. Able just to mute that over the other side, which we're talking on, or you need to hear me. Okay, once we're going, we shouldn't hear ourselves. That's okay.
1 2 3 4. Can I see the pitch? I can.
So we'll do first bit. We'll do great to be back. Toss has gone to Kent. Bowling, wonderful to be.
Neil Bainton and
we've got to kill 2 minutes there, so a couple of back and forths,
yeah.
Followed by Fletch, which I will say Middlesex, and where Max Holden made an unbeaten century. If I get there early, I get there early. You know what I mean? With that first one, we'll make up the time later.
So yeah, make sure you give me 2.5 minutes because we need time to actually load it. It's a bit of a lengthy. Try and stick to the timing.
I'll certainly try. We've got a clock in front of us, so it's
not the press of a button. We've got
okay.
to literally jiggle around. We've had to do a bit of work on that.
yeah.
Okay.
So try and stick to the time.
I'll try and find a clock that does seconds. Hang on. There's an option here, isn't there?
Are we going?
So we're on air in
No.
80 seconds.
Da-da-da-dum, da-dum, da-da-dee-dee-doo, dee-dee. Alrighty.
Is it playing out? 1 2 3. Is the link live? I can't see it on the page. For what it's worth, I just clicked watch live and nothing came up. For what it's worth. Should we wait Fletch till it comes up? The stream's live on YouTube and not on the website, so we can start if you want, but that's the stream's live on YouTube.
Alex won. Neil Bainton, Alex won.
Alex umpire.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh no, he's not.
He's people match ref with
There's only one on. What? Alex won's match ref. Ben Debenham. That's it.
Guys, sorry, I'm up.
Yep.
All right.
It's all good. Does that mean that's you? Yeah, looks like it. So if it needs to be, we can. Welcome to Lords. This is the T20 Vitality Blast. I'm Adam Collins, with me is Isabel Westbury, and finally cricket returns to headquarters in the summer of 2020. Middlesex's first home game of the Vitality Blast against Kent. The news from the middle at the toss is that Kent have won the toss and elected to bowl. As I say good afternoon to Isabel Westbury.
Good afternoon. How wonderful it is to be here at Lords. Cricket, we didn't think it would happen. We didn't think it would happen at Lords, indeed, and from the opposite end to where we usually are. It's a first for, what, 20 years?
Yeah,
years?
you think it would be. Obviously, the media centre over there is where all commentary has taken place since 1999, 99 World Cup, and we are over here today on the opposite side of the ground in the pavilion, so quite the opportunity to see some cricket here, though. That's the main focus. Of course, unfortunately for Middlesex the other night, they were washed out after making 184 for 5. They weren't able to get a result due to the rain at Chelmsford. The situation was similar for Kent, who did so well to restrict Hampshire to 139 for 6, and they were ticking along beautifully in their chase before rain intervened. But from Middlesex's perspective, the good news was that the opener Max Holden made a magnificent unbeaten century.
My goodness, didn't he look good? No, I know.
Tell us when it ends. Tell us when it ends.
Jake! Jake! You're in the wrong stand!
Max Holden, brilliant. 102 not out on Thursday as Essex made their way to, or rather I should say Essex were chasing Middlesex's 184 for 5 when rain intervened. Now, Isabel, a factor of these blast games at Lords is that there will be no crowd, and as a consequence we are mindful that we're so grateful that people are allowed to watch and able to watch from home on the live stream, but we really can't wait till they're back.
Oh, absolutely, and I think we're going to see a video in a second, the hashtag back at the crease video. Cricket's back, fans might not be, but hopefully soon.
So here is a presentation from our players thanking all of our members and fans for being a part of what we're doing here on the live stream, and hopefully it won't be long before they can be back with us at the ground.
Just thinking back at that Max Holden innings, I mean, he's timed the ball beautifully. Stevie Eskenazi as well at the start until rain intervened. So it was a pretty good score. I think today it looks as though it's going to be dry, a bit cloudy overhead, a bit grey, but Should be a good day's cricket.
So as we wait for the players to walk to the middle, here's that video from the players thanking our members for their support. As the players make their way to the middle, we have the two teams ready to read out to you as we see Max Holden and Stevie Eskenazi cross the rope from beneath us here in the pavilion. And the team as named Isabel Westbury.
Yeah, unchanged. Both teams unchanged from their previous outings. Stevie Eskenazi, Max Holden opening up, Martin Anderson, Nick Gubbins, John Simpson's coming in before Dan Lincoln. Then we have James Harris, Tom Helm, Nathan Souter, Captain Stephen Finn, and Miguel Cummins to round things off. And as we said, with the Kent team as well, also unchanged. Zach Crawley, Daniel Weldon, the captain, Ollie Robinson, Jack Leaning, Alex Blake, Jordan Cox, Grant Stewart, Callum Haggett, Matt Milnes, and Imran Kayum.
So with the clock about to strike 2 p.m. here at Lord's, cricket will return to headquarters for the first time in 2020. It'll be Grant Stewart looking like he's going to open the bowling for the visitors from our pavilion end. And Eskenazi will be facing the first ball. Well waited for many months throughout the course of this long summer. We thought we wouldn't see it. But cricket is at Lord's. It is the Vitality Blast. Middlesex and Kent both getting an opportunity to get on the board after a pair of washouts on Thursday.
Yeah, and Eskenazi looked good as well in that match. He was timing the ball nicely. 3 fours in his first over. Shame he could only make 24 in the end. 24 of 11 balls against Essex. And, well, he want to continue the form, certainly, the touch that he found himself in. And Max Holden, of course, the Centurion, the unbeaten Centurion down at the other end.
So, Stewart with ball in hand. On the way to Eskenazi, and we are away at Lord's. Striking nicely out towards point. Middlesex are off the mark. They come back for a second. Nice running from Holden to the danger end.
Stewart, North 38 of his 4 overs against Hampshire. Getting at 9.5 per over, so reasonably expensive in the scheme of things. But and again, this is T20 in 2020, and I think 10s per over about par almost.
Stewart to Eskenazi, up and over the top of backward point. It holds up in the outfield towards the grandstand. They come back for 2 more. Good start.
Yeah, it looks like a nice deck coming onto the bat nicely.
Quite a spooky feeling seeing cricket played at this top level without having fans in the ground. But what we can see at the nursery end is the building work. They've been busy over there. I tell you what, I was here in February and it was still very much a construction zone, but they're nearly done. Those grandstands. Stewart here, Eskenazi pushing to cover. Stopped on the edge of the circle.
Yes, the new Compton and Edgerton stand almost sort of towering over the media centre. At the moment, I'm a little bit worried about anybody that's sitting on that top tier because certainly it's very exposed for the time being, but I understand there's going to be a covering over the top at some point. It does rather expand. The capacity here, I think, was 28,500, so I had a couple more on there.
So Stewart bowling with a slip. The men outside the circle at third man and square leg. Eskenazi out towards third man on the bounce. Couple of bounces before it is collected. They get through for a single. So 5 without loss, all to Eskenazi.
Very similar stuff to how he started off against Essex, throwing his hands at everything, just trusting that he would strike the ball somehow and then it would land. He'd strike it with such timing that it would land certainly safe at least, or carry on into the boundary edge. Got only a deep square leg and a third man down on that boundary for the time being. Fielding restrictions in place.
Yeah, Milne's doing the work down there at third man. He was excellent the other night. Picked up 3 for 19. We'll see him shortly, no doubt. Stewart to the crease. Holden's first ball, and he's off the mark. There's a gap there at mid-wicket. They'll look for 2, and they'll get there comfortably. That's good batting. Recognised accordingly by their teammates on the balcony. 7 without loss. 1 ball to come in this, the first over.
I reckon we have 2 contenders for kits of the tournament. I'm rather partial to both Middlesex's and Kent's here. I think Kent's is probably a Marmite kit.
Getting out through the onside, Holden. So 8 runs from the first over, the first of the power play. Eskenazi has 5 and Holden 3. Holden, of course, coming off an unbeaten century on Thursday night at Essex. He was quite brilliant. But as you mentioned in the opener, Isabel, Eskenazi started beautifully as well.
Yeah, I think we were both watching the live stream from our respective homes and sort of WhatsApping over the top of it and saying how these two had started. Like, Eskenazi had a bit of a tricky time in the Bob Willis Trophy. Max Holden scores here and there, but again, timing the ball nicely. But it was nice to see them sort of almost restart in this new format, even though it only came a couple of days following the end of the Red Bull stuff.
Yeah, and that confidence the Middlesex will draw from that result at Radlett on Monday. Ended up being a 3-day game. We were calling that fixture, and the rain fell about quarter of an hour after the final run was scored by John Simpson, but able to collect full points there in a come-from-behind victory against Sussex. And a good performance with the bat at Essex on Thursday. Can they cap a really good week? So Holden on strike again. Through the covers, beautifully struck for the first boundary of the day. Crunching Klassen out to the rope in front of the grandstand.
More of the same, please, I think, as far as Middlesex is concerned.
Yeah, picking up from where he left off on Thursday. Klassen, the Dutch international, turning at the nursery end on the way here with his left arm medium fast. He bowls to Holden, and he bowls him straight through, clipping that off stump. Holden's gone for 7. Kent pick up their first wicket. Middlesex 12 for 1.
Yeah, 1 too many really there for Holden. He was striking the ball nicely and then just a little bit too full, knocked off the off peg. He was going for a nice expansive drive and went right underneath the bat. And he'll be disappointed with that. Klassen there, having been hit for the previous ball. And so is the nature of T20. Be timing the ball and feeling it well. And all of a sudden, it's all over. So Holden head bowed, off he goes. And it means that Martin Anderson makes his way to the crease.
Yeah, Anderson, faith being shown in a young man, having batted so nicely in the Bob Willis Trophy. Didn't get an opportunity in the Blast last year, albeit coming back from injury. Has an opportunity here in the early stages of this competition.
Yeah, real breakout player really for Middlesex in the Bob Willis Trophy. And to think that Bob Willis, was it only a month that we had of red ball cricket, but both with ball and with bat, he really did stand up to the mark. In a young team, this is a format or a time when there are opportunities around. Internationals aren't here for the most part. And someone like Anderson has really benefited.
Yeah, it's just his third T20. Martin Anderson made 5 at Chelmsford, coming in at first drop, as he does again here. So a slip in position. It's Klassen makes his way to the crease and bowls, and Anderson an edge over the top of the man at slip, down towards third man. They take 1, they consider a second, but they think better of it. Cox doing the fielding there in front of us.
Yeah, really interesting. They just popped Zach Crawley into first slip there. A tall man, of course. People familiar with him and his England Test exploits, but yeah, they popped him into slip and it was just a little bit too high and too far over his right shoulder. but certainly Kent conscious that Middlesex are throwing their hands at it all. Slip currently out with Eskenazi on strike.
Third man in deep square, the 2 men outside the circle. Klaassen to the crease. He's short. Eskenazi getting it over the top of the wicketkeeper, over about where Lee Slip would have been, but 4 runs are added. Just adjusted as the ball was arriving to knock it over the top of the keeper's head, really. Eskenazi, his first boundary, he moves to 9, 17 for 1.
Got a scoreboard that's all over it at the moment. It's very quick to the mark. Nice pink against a black backdrop.
Looks fantastic. Couple of balls to go. Delivers here. Eskenazi defends. So the man who's been leading Middlesex in the Bob Willis Trophy. Opening up in the T20 campaign. Klaassen to him here, punching through cover and doing it really nicely. Out towards the rope. So a wicket and 3 boundaries from the over. Middlesex already into the 20s, 21 for 1. They've lost Holden, but Eskenazi ticking along beautifully. 13 from 7 balls. Anderson took a single from the one delivery he has faced.
Yeah, very similar guys to the innings that he was batting against Essex just a couple of days ago. He had a difficult Bob Willis Trophy with the bat, Eskenazi, but equally they go into the final round against Essex, still with a tilt at the title, or a tilt at the top of the table spot in that Southern Division. So in his captain capacity, certainly very heartening.
Yeah, fantastic wins for both teams in that most recent round of the Bob Willis Trophy. Matt Milnes takes up the attack from our pavilion end. Mentioned he was excellent with 3 for 19 in the opening round for Kent. On the way here, bowling to Anderson, who cuts him well off the back foot. Another boundary. That's 3 boundaries in the last 4 balls for the home side. 25 for 1. Anderson getting on top of the bounce there and beating the man at point. Up the hill for 4.
Struck that beautifully. Anderson just rising onto his toes. And these 2 batters at the moment finding those gaps. Lightning fast outfield. That's what you get at Lords.
He's having a good summer, Milnes. Bowls again to Anderson, is also having a particularly good 2020. Out to point. They take a single. Eskenazi to the danger end. He makes it. Had the throw been on target, it might have been interesting, but he is safe. 26 for 1. Anderson's now 6.
Yeah, really clean pick up there by Alex Blake. Just he's a tall frame, leaning down to his right. But as you say, it was the throw that was off target, but certainly made them hurry through for that single.
Yeah, Milnes, of course, part of that England Lions squad that went to Australia over the winter. He's picked up 15 wickets in the Bob Willis Trophy. On the way here, bowls to Eskenazi, down the leg side. A wide signalled, so 27 for 1.
Yeah, it doesn't. Overseas tour to Australia seems like an absolute world away before everything sort of fell apart. The world fell apart over the last couple of months.
Nicely taken down the leg side by the other Ollie Robinson.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the fast bowling Sussex Ollie Robinson over the last week or so, trying to force his way into the England setup.
So Milnes to Eskenazi. That's a slower ball. Carves it out to the man at deep point. The easiest of singles, 28 for 1. Eskenazi's 14.
He absolutely slapped that, didn't he? Flat batted. Very much in control. Neil Bainton and Ben Debenham, the umpires down there today. Alex Swan is the match referee. Tucked up out of the breeze.
Milnes to Anderson. He tries to beat point, but doesn't on this occasion.
It's one of those days where you really hope that the fielders have warmed up their hands appropriately. It's chilly, it's blustery. Yes, it is the end of August. I heard somewhere it's going to be the coldest bank holiday August since, I don't know, records began or something like that. But yes, it's one that does require a good warm-up, especially with T20 and the balls throttling around.
Milnes to Anderson, who pushes off the front foot, but again, only to the man on the ring there at extra cover. No single available to him. Yes, even we've both got coats on today.
Yes.
Milnes turns and runs towards Anderson. Strikes him on the pad, spits out towards backward point, so 3 dots on the bounce.
Yeah, looked like a slower delivery there. Really sensible stuff from the bowler, nice and straight. A little bit too straight for the LBW appeal. But certainly meant they saved it. They stopped to run.
So bounce back well after conceding a boundary and spraying a ball down the leg side to start the over. 28 for 1 Middlesex, Eskenazi 14, Anderson 6. Adam Collins and Isabel Westbury with you here on the stream, as we will be throughout the Vitality Blast home games here at Lord's. It's fantastic to be back. Thanks for your company. Of course, no fans here today, unfortunately, but wonderful to be able to bring this to you from the pavilion at Lord's, as Imran Quayam looks like he'll pick up the attack for Kent from the nursery end. With his left arm orthodox. Got 4 men on the circle on the offside, make that 5. The men out are at long on and deep square leg. Through Eskenazi first up, with one that looked like it went between bat and inside, or inside edge and pad, I should say.
Yeah, I wonder if it just wrapped the keeper on his thigh as well. I think he wore that one. Didn't look particularly comfortable after it ricocheted off.
So Kayam, left arm around the wicket with his orthodox. Eskenazi picking out one of the, well, you could almost call them 3 points. We've got a backward point, a conventional point, and a cover point. That found the one right on the edge of point on the circle, no run. 2 dots to start. There's a single here, round the corner to the man on the 45. 28 for 1, Eskenazi's 15.
Yeah, running very flat, very fast. Eskenazi just trying to get the measure of him. More difficult to guide away the slower pace. Wonder if I could try and get underneath one in a moment. Anderson back on strike.
Kayam had a fantastic blast last year, picked up 12 wickets at 18, went at 7.5 and over, which is pretty good for a spinner. Bowls here, using his feet, Anderson up and over the top of mid-off. 1 bounce over the rope.
I think Anderson had almost the perfect start to that over there, because he was able to watch Eskenazi try and awkwardly play those first 2 balls and get the measure of him, and then thought, right, I've had enough, I've seen enough of this, I know what to do, and dance down the track, and that's a beautiful looking shot. Timed, measured, and as you say, 1 bounce 4 into the stands.
He's in the double figures, so 33 for 1. Couple of balls to go in the 4th over. Building towards a healthy power play this. Small tweak to the field. Deep square moves to Cow corner. Kayam bowls to Anderson, who plays with a straight bat to extra cover, no run.
It's one of my biggest fears of the T20 cricket and COVID conditions is we saw in the Bob Willis Trophy that because of this is a very strict sort of green zones and orange zones where players are allowed to go only.
Again, using his feet, Anderson, but happy to take the single on offer to mid-off to end the over, retain the strike. He's 11 from 9 balls, 34 for 1 Middlesex after being sent in by Kent. 2 overs to go in the power play.
In the COVID conditions, of course, fielders have to retrieve the balls that have been sent into the stands, or indeed if they were playing an outground into fields and things. And that's all very well when you're playing red ball cricket, because it doesn't all too often sort of sky over for sixes and that kind of thing. But in T20 cricket, I'm a little bit worried about how often we're going to have to see players clambering over seats and things into stands to try and find those balls.
Yeah, especially if they get into the second deck. I wonder what will happen then. Or into the construction site, which is entirely possible over at the nursery end of the ground. Milnes continuing his second over to Anderson, shimmying forward, swing and a miss outside the off stump.
Yeah, really pretty premeditated there by Anderson. He was down, I think maybe 2 steps down the track already before the ball had even got to the end of his run-up. Milnes there.
So Milnes has a deep point and a deep square leg now. He's 2 outside the circle. The penultimate over of this power play, and the field can be spread. He bowls and Anderson off the back foot, can't beat point. Came forward, then rocked back, and the placement needed to be perfect with that packed offside field.
So a few games going around the grounds today. Worcestershire against Northampton in their innings break. Worcestershire made 124 for 7 off their 20 overs. They started an hour earlier than we are here at Lords. Durham Notts have got their match start has been delayed up at Chesterler Street, I believe due to rain.
Anderson slapping through extra cover. Nicely timed, running towards the Warner stand rope. He's 15, joining Eskenazi. It's 38 for 1.
How quick were his hands there? Really whipped through that shot. And they're splicing the field between cover and extra. Really had no chance.
We said it a lot during the Bob Willis Trophy games, Isabel, that this truncated summer has given plenty of opportunities to young players that may not have necessarily had those chances had it been a conventional summer, and Anderson certainly falls into that category. He's facing up again here, whipping through square leg, gets another single. He's 16, it's 39 for 1.
Oh, absolutely. I think even sort of the most strident Middlesex fans would have been hard pressed to know too much about Anderson coming into this season. Played a lot of second 11 cricket before, but was really taking his opportunity, as you say, with both bat and with ball, and played really responsible roles as well.
Yeah, well, really didn't bowl at all last year, coming back from that back injury, but with ball and bat, he's been fantastic. It's Eskenazi here, shimmying forward before flicking through mid-wicket. Takes one, happy with one. So 40 for 1 with 1 ball to come in this, the 5th over. So run rate of 8.3, healthy early on.
So 184 for 5 was the total that they made against Essex. I think from the live stream it felt as though the Essex commentators felt as though that was a gettable score, but I don't know.
Milnes to the crease. Anderson pulling beautifully through mid-wicket. That's a very nice shot from the young man into the 20s. After 5 overs, Middlesex 44 for 1. They're right on top with Anderson 20 from just 14 balls.
I was really impressed by their batting display over Chelmsford. Of course, you can't really say what's going to happen until you've seen both sides bat, as a cliche goes. But equally, it's a very young batting lineup. You think that they've lost their sort of that top 4 of David Milan up at Yorkshire, Sterling, Morgan, and AB de Villiers as well. And it means that someone like Holden, someone like Anderson, can come into the fold and they look comfortable. They don't look like rabbits in headlights. They look as though this is where they belong.
Isabel, for the first time today, I'll hand the commentary over to you.
Absolutely. So we're going to see Fred Clarkson is going to resume things from the nursery end, take over from Imran Kayem. This is the Dutch left arm bowler, Eskenazi and Anderson just have a little chat about how they're going to play him. Got a man out cover point, man out deep square as well. That's it for the time being. Here comes Clarkson. He's going to come around the wicket, very wide of his crease, and this is all played down to third man. There's a man there inside the ring. There's a shot at the stumps. They made that easily enough. Eskenazi moves to 17 from his 13 deliveries. Anderson there, 20 from 14, 45 for 1 the score. Floodlights on. It's a very grey and gloomy skies overhead at the moment. But
Didn't have a great time of it last year in the Blast, Clarkson. Took his wickets at 39 and went it well over 9 runs and over. But has the wicket so far today, that of Max Holden. Anderson
on a strike. Slightly open stance, Clarkson around the wicket again, and this one's flipped off his legs, and there's going to be a shot at the striker's end. Oh, and the ball misses. I think he would have been a few yards short there, Eskenazi. He called him through for a quick single. It was Eskenazi's call, standing at the non-striker's end. But had they hit, he would have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, good assertive running there from Eskenazi. He's been taking responsibility for running to the danger end more often than not. So he's the man taking ownership of that.
Eskenazi there on strike, high back lift. Looks to go forward down the crease, and he's run that down to third man. It's going to be a chase on down to the boundary. The fielder there just inside the ring, a little bit wide, and they come back easily enough for 2. It's nice to see here the 2 batters, not only are they striking the ball nicely, but they're placing it beautifully as well. A few deft shots in there, just to change things up, really frustrate the bowler. Here comes Clarkson again, round the wicket, and this is in the air over the top of the ring fielder and falling just in front of the man at cover point on the bounce, running through from the boundary. Didn't quite get hold of that one, Eskenazi. And actually, maybe that's a good thing, because if he had, it might have gone straight into the hands of the man out there.
Yeah, had he nailed that, it might have been catching practice, but caught up high on the blade. One bounce and safe. Joining Anderson in the 20s.
Anderson there, very high baseball style backlift. Crouches low, and this is whipped off his hips and lovely, beautifully over the top of mid wicket. It's just plugged in the ground as they do come back for two. Looking for the third. There's a little relay going on, and Anderson does indeed. He's the one that calls it, and you can hear the clap from the Middlesex balcony. They're happy with that one. And it means that Middlesex also have moved past 50-52 for one. Anderson moves to 24. And this is a good start.
Yeah, excellent power play. Can they finish it with another boundary?
Oh, this is played nicely. Back of the point, and it's beaten the fielder out there. We talk about guiding the shots just in the gaps. It was just in front of, well, what you could call a sort of a gully, a backward point, and the man out cover point. And it was fast enough and flat enough. Really to splice between the two. And we've seen the first sort of retrieval from the stands. That ball, you can see it was hit with such power that he had to climb over the advertising hoardings and bring the ball back into the ground. 56 for one then. We've had 6 overs play. And both batters there on 24, Adam.
It's such a chilly afternoon, so swirly as well, but the clouds are a fraction less dark than they were a quarter of an hour ago, which is a good sign, given we've seen so many days of cricket affected by rain in 2020, both in the Bob Willis Trophy and, of course, international cricket last night at Old Trafford. The T20 International between England and Pakistan called off after 16 overs, and the 2 test matches to finish their series also fairly sodden draws in the end. And even our game at Radlett, had it gone on for another half an hour, that probably would have been a washout as well.
Change of bowler, Callum Haggett into the attack, right arm, and this is all a big appeal for OW. The finger goes up, wrapped on the pads, and it means that Martin Anderson, who'd been going so well, 24 from 16, striking the ball well, he's gone first ball from the young Callum Haggett, LBW, and he departs 24, 56 for 2.
Well, that's the shot he's been trying to play, isn't it? Over the top of mid-wicket after coming down the track just by half a pace or so, but that first delivery, a little bit off the seam, just down the slope ever so slightly, and enough to beat the inside edge. That was a fairly straightforward decision for the umpire. But Anderson again showing plenty. 24 from 17 deliveries. He's taken pretty much every opportunity he's had through the course of the summer, both in red ball and white ball cricket. And here again, gets a start and takes Middlesex through the power play in a pretty good position. But now the game changes again at 56 for 2.
Haggett there against Hampshire bowled 3 overs for no wicket, but he's got one this time. First ball. A former Somerset Academy bowler who's been in and out of Kent squads, but been more around with the white ball stuff for Kent over the past few seasons. It's going to have Gubbins facing him, a left-handed batter to contend with. So cover point, deep square, a wide third man, also fine leg. And long on out here as well. Mid off just inside the ring. Here comes Haggett, right arm over to Gubbins, who's facing his first delivery. And immediately striking the ball beautifully, driving it. Very Gubbins-esque, really holds his pose through the covers. 4 runs, that's one way to get off the mark.
That's glorious. I mean, Gubbins is one of a number of Middlesex players who didn't get many opportunities in the Blast last year, played just 3 games, but as you mentioned off the top, Isabel, with a number of players from that campaign not available this year, Gubbins gets his chance at number 4, and, well, that was a classy way to start his day today.
Yeah, we saw a bit of that in the Bob Willis. He likes to, once he hit that cover drive, he likes to hold it there for the cameras. Perhaps here comes Haggett around the wicket to Gubbins. He's just pushing into the covers and he'll get a single for it. Very determined shot there. I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Good question where the photographers are today. I might try and spot some around the ground. I saw Phil Brown here this morning. One of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. I don't know where he's pulled up today, but they are mostly on the second deck of the tavern stand by the looks of things.
Haggett, right arm over, and this is a slow delivery, turned around the corner by Eskenazi, out to square leg. Yeah, Alex Davis down there as well. He's got his camera. A few dotted around, as you say, harder to spot in the sort of vast emptiness of Lords.
Yeah, it's very different, isn't it? The Tavern Stand, of course, is where, well, when cricket commentary first started, way back in the 1920s and 1930s, that's where it was done at Lords. But it's been a long time.
Haggett again, and this has just popped in the air over, I think, or to the right-hand shoulder of extra cover on the ring there. Gubbins there was a bit indecisive, not sure whether he was going to go through the shot and try and get it up and over that inner ring field, or whether he was just defending it, and in the end he was lucky, I think, not to depart. So a single there for Gubbins, 63 for 2. Haggett is going to continue from the pavilion end, right arm over, and again nice slow delivery, and this one's flat batted back at a point, and there's a big dive on there. A good chase from the man out on the cover point boundary, and he does haul the ball in, and they come back for 2. 65 for 2 then, Middlesex at the halfway mark. At the halfway mark. Goodness, I was looking at the run rate there as opposed to the overs. 7 overs gone, 65 for 2. That's a decent start, Adam.
Yeah, it is, and Eskenazi would be thinking here, well, look, if he can bat through the majority of the middle overs, obviously having to modulate the game, having the fielders out now, but we've seen on a number of occasions here under lights at Lords in the T20 Blast him really take off and clear the boundary. Certainly early in his career he was known for that, wasn't he? As one of the major draw cards here at Lords. So he'll be hoping for a chance to go big now that he's laid that foundation, 27 from 18 balls.
Looks like we're going to see Imran Khayyam back into the attack. Is it Imran Khayyam? No, it's going to be Jack leaning. So he's right arm around the wicket. Bowling to Gubbins. And just plugs that out onto the boundary. So a lot of changes here in the bowling composition of Kent. Just mix and match, spin this end, seam the other.
Yeah, of course, leaning new to Kent this year for a long career at Yorkshire.
It's going back over the wicket to Eskenazi, who thrashes that into the covers, and I think that might be forward as chasing the boundary. And will he make it? He does. Really, really good fielding there from the man at cover point, Fred Klaassen there, who's patrolling the offside boundary. They do come back for 3, so good running as well. But it looked as Eskenazi hadn't really got hold of that one, spliced it in between the ring field. They come back for 3, 69 for 2. Around the wicket here, leaning away, dart light delivery. Just poked into the offside. No run.
So 3 out on the leg side, deep backward square, deep mid wicket and long on.
There's a fuller one, and this is slapped into the offside. Nice flat batted shot there by Gubbins. He's really getting through his deliveries here, leaning. I think as soon as he's got the ball, he wants to go.
Yeah, Gubbins picking out one of the 2 sweepers on the offside who were at, well, when Gubbins was on strike anyway, deep cover and long off.
Here he is again, and Eskenazi just turns that into the onside, and I wonder if they're going to think about the 2 there. He didn't quite time it, and it meant that fine leg had a bit of work to do, and he's done it. So just the single, 71 for 2.
Don't mind this from leaning to really bash and crash his way through the over, transfer the pressure back onto the batting side. Just 6 singles, or 6 runs rather, conceded from 5 balls so far. Doing a job already.
Gubbins waits. Again, very, very full, and this one is just, this is lovely. Backward a point. He used the length of that ball just to almost paddle the bat, angle it in between backward point, and to do a short third. And it means that they end that over, and as you said, I think it was a good over by leaning. It was good tactics from him trying to get through things, but a 4 to end it. And it means Middlesex 75 for 2. And we are going to see a spin at both ends, because Imran Khayyam is going to come on from the pavilion end.
Yeah, so Gubbins just 3 opportunities to play in last year's Vitality Blast, and now getting a more substantial opportunity. Last year, just a couple of innings, really not a factor in the competition at all, but a reconfigured Middlesex 11 under Stuart Law this year. as your paperwork flies away.
The wind is so blustery that even my sellotaped paperwork has flown away. Here comes Kayam around the wicket, and this one's just tucked into the onside. And it was one of those where you thought, are they going to come back for 2? So it was requiring the fielder from the boundary to come up and do the legwork, but they decided against it. 76 for 2. So the left-hand, right-hand combination really does sort of come into focus when you're playing T20s, and they're just the fielders having to move every single ball almost across the field. Umpire decides to stay where he is at point. So Kayam's going to continue around the wicket, and this is just giving Gubbins a bit of space. Turn this onto the onside, but well picked up at mid-wicket.
He almost struck that too well. The call was 2-2-2, but timed it nicely to deep mid-wicket. No chance for the second.
Here he is again. Eskenazi just thrashing that, trying to get it past point. Doesn't make it. 32 from 22, Eskenazi. Kayam's already got ball in hand, and they're really trying to rip through these overs, as this one's a bit straighter. And Kayam, they're going to have to field off his own bowling, and he does nicely. So another single.
Calling some good fielding there from Jordan Cox earlier in the over. Looking forward to seeing him bat. The 19-year-old, of course, made an unbeaten 238 in the Bob Willis Trophy a couple of weeks ago. So he enters this short-form competition in very good nick.
Kayam to Gubbins, and this one again a little bit shorter, straighter. Gives himself room, Gubbins. But he almost reprimanded himself as he went through the stroke. I think he wanted to get the placement of that ball a little bit wider, perhaps. Try and beat the fielder out at the boundary's edge. 79 for 2. This one again, another single. The shy at the non-striker's end, or at least a throw to the bowler to try and run out Eskenazi coming through, but they've made it in time. 80 for 2. 9 overs gone, Eskenazi 34, Gubbins 14. It's not the only Middlesex team or Middlesex players, I guess, playing today. It's the opening round of the Rachel Hayhoe Flint 50-over competition for the women. 8 zonal teams and a large Middlesex contingent representing the Sunrisers. Of course, I think 7 Middlesex players are in that squad. Sunrisers made 202 with Middlesex's Naomi Datani. I think she made 41 in the end. Maddie Villiers, I think, an unbeaten 60 as well. Well, up to 202, but Southern Vipers currently going very well, 47 without loss in the 8th over, as this has turned into the onside by Eskenazi, and they are going to come back for 2. It's a fumble in the outfield to begin the start of this. Callum Haggett over from the nursery end.
Yeah, fantastic to see the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy start today. When you consider where we were just a couple of months ago, it's been a mighty effort from a lot of people around the nation to make sure that that regional competition is to be played throughout the next month.
Haggett into Eskenazi. Flat batted out to cover point, just the one run. Yeah, they found themselves in a bit of strife early on, the Sunrisers. 30 for 3. The loss of Fran Wilson, batting at number 3, went for 11, but Naomi Datani steadying the ship. She got 42. Maddie Villiers of Essex got 64 before she was run out, and 202. A competitive total, you'd think, but with Danny Wyatt currently at the crease for the Southern Vipers, 24 for 24. Here comes Haggett again into Gubbins, and this one's all driven nicely and wide of extra cover. Bell Drummond there diving to his left, and it's 4 runs. Fielder running around from long off tried to intercept the ball, but he went over the boundary edge with the ball in hand. 87 for 2.
That's so well placed, just to the left of Bell Drummond, but up into the deep pocket there in front of the old Compton stand, I suppose you would call it, just making it to the rope.
Haggett into Gubbins, and this one's wide this time, wide of square leg, and a good piece of fielding there from cover point. Just manages to get a hand to the ball as he skids through, pats the ball back into the rope. That means Gubbins has to settle for 2.
It's looking good. Made it to 20 from just 11 balls. Couple of boundaries in there.
And he waits as Haggett around the wicket. Guided
Clever.
beautifully. Fine of third man. The race is on and the ball has beaten him. Really beautiful shot there from Gubbins. It was very full and all he needed to do was just guide it down. He did.
Yeah, placement a couple of times in this over from Gubbins, once on the drive and then with that deft deflection past the keeper. Fine of short third man and just had the legs to roll into the boundary rope.
Haggett very wide of the crease, and this one's just placed once more in between backward point and that short third. Settle for 2. So 95 for 2 at the halfway mark.
You consider how tough this side was to get into last year for Middlesex. Those names on paper. It was such a strong team with AB de Villiers, of course, and Owen Morgan, Paul Sterling, who unfortunately is no longer eligible to play in the county championship as a local player, or the various competitions that flow from it as a consequence of his Irish status. But players like Gubbins and Max Holden, who made 100, of course, on Thursday night, and indeed Martin Anderson. So 3 of the top 4 who really weren't fixtures in this team this time last year. So we're halfway there, halfway through. Kayam to bowl his third over from the pavilion end now. On the back foot, cutting out towards the sweeper at deep point is Eskenazi. He moves to 38 from 27 balls. Adam Collins back with you in the commentary chair, with Isabel Westbury to my right.
Very nice chairs as well. Very lucky.
It's a lovely spot to be, as we will be throughout the course of the T20 Blast here at Lords. Kayam going around the wicket, or over the wicket rather, around the wicket, confusing myself there. Good pull shot in any case by Gubbins, down towards the rope and trickling into it. So another boundary for Nick Gubbins. He's 30 from just 14 balls. Middlesex bring up their 100 for 2. So Kayam trying to change the angle at a left-hander. The 100 up in just 62 balls for Middlesex. They're well on their way for 200 plus here. Kayam to Gubbins, full toss. He elects to place it to deep point for a single. Yes, this is particularly nice being up. If you're watching down the barrel of the stream, we are at long on when Eskenazi's on strike. That's full, floated and defended. Well, not defended as much as he tried to squeeze it out, but almost yorked himself. This time Eskenazi makes solid contact, but only as far as mid-off. Collected by Bell Drummond. They take a single. So 102 for 2. Eskenazi has 39 of them. 1 ball to come in this, the 11th over. Small change in the field. Bell Drummond moving himself to backward point when Gubbins is on strike to cut off his ability to rock onto the back foot. Instead, he clips off the front. 2 deep mid-wicket. He'll retain the strike. 103 for 2. Gubbins has 32. 9 overs to go. Well, yeah, 200 minimum from this place.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with these two going as they are. Their partnership now over 50, or no, nearing 50.
Yeah, they came together at 56 when Anderson was out.
So 47.
Leg before wicket to Haggett for 24. He was the second wicket to fall. The first was that of Max Holden. He was bowled by Claasen's second delivery when he was 7 and the score was 12 in the second over. Stewart is back into the attack. He bowled the first over of the game from the pavilion end. He's now at the nursery end. On the way around the wicket to Gubbins. It's full. Gubbins doesn't quite get all of it. Gets very little of it in the end. It spills out towards extra cover. They take a single. He's 34.
Yeah, very quick between the crease. Gubbins.
So Grant Stewart, an Australian originally, has an Italian passport, playing as a local here. Oh, he's attempted ramp by Eskenazi, but doesn't make contact. The ball ends up in the gloves of Robinson. But I like what he's trying to do there, because third man's up and fine legs up. So if he makes any contact there, it'll almost certainly run down towards the boundary in front of us here.
Guilty perhaps just going a little bit too early. I think Stewart picked it up there as well.
Stewart goes again. Eskenazi full clipping out through mid-wicket. There'll be one there and there'll be two there. Good running from Gubbins. He was on the bike and turning.
Yeah, it's one thing that he seems to do is he makes it look so easy, those two runs between the wickets, when you think, oh, he's got a single, possibly a two, and already Gubbins is halfway down the track. And it comes into a dead certainty rather than a maybe.
So 5 men out, all in front of the wicket. Stewart bowls. Eskenazi, can he beat backward point? He can. That'll run away for 4. He moves to 45 and Middlesex are 110 for 2. Just using the pace of the ball, getting deep in the crease and realising that if he placed it well enough, it'd be a certain boundary.
Yeah, backward point there. Just slightly underestimating the speed of that ball, waiting a little fraction too late. So dive to his left there, Fred Clarkson, and it resulted in a boundary.
Stewart to the crease. Eskenazi through mid-wicket. They should come back for 2 again. And they do. Again, Gubbins making the early call that it was going to be 2. Running back towards the non-striker's end, and Eskenazi was comfortably back. 47, the right-hander. It's 112 for 2 with 1 ball to come in the 12th over. Stewart bowls. It's 4 more for Eskenazi. That'll be his half century. It crashes into the rope. 51 from 34 balls after opening the batting. Isabel Westbury, he's been on top form.
Yeah, it's funny in that Essex match. He certainly almost looked as though he was the one that's hitting the ball more nicely in that opening stand with him, between him and Holden. Holden, of course, going on to make his century. But Eskenazi, he hit 3 4s in that opening over. He came with intent. He's trying to sort of make up, I guess, for an under par performance in the Bob Willis Trophy. But he's looking out here.
His 6th half century in T20 cricket. Indeed, he's nearing his highest score of 57 not out. 12 overs gone. Plenty of time. 116 for 2.
There's a bit of sunlight warming things up, peeping in between the clouds.
No complaints. Haggett back from the pavilion end to Gubbins, who isn't able to find the gap from the full toss. Straight out towards cover. Alex Blake does the fielding. They take a single. He's 34.
I've seen a couple of those low full tosses. They seem to be part of the armoury of T20 cricket. Sort of, you don't think they should be, but they are often one of the hardest balls to actually get away. To get underneath them, often kind of square you up, sometimes even surprise you. Not something you're always expecting as third man. Looks as though he's going to be pushed down to the boundary. And
yeah, a couple of tweaks here. So we've got a long on and a third man who've gone back between deliveries. Haggett bowls and Eskenazi picks out the captain Bell Drummond at extra cover, no run. So the men outside the circle, deep point third man, deep square, deep mid wicket and long on. Haggett to the crease. Eskenazi shimmying forward outside the off stump, wide enough to be signalled accordingly. So that helps. 1 to the sundries. 118 for 2.
yeah, that was very wide. One of those that you start to wonder, if that was a red ball game, that might even also been called a wide. More unusual there, of course, but that one I think he knew as soon as he'd released it.
Haggett goes again. Eskenazi up and over the top of square leg for 6. The first big one of the day for the Middlesex opener. He's 57 not out from just 36 deliveries. 124 for 2 is the score. As I mentioned before, that's his highest score in this format of the game.
Yeah, really sensible cricket there from Eskenazi. And that wide delivery, the previous ball, and perhaps knowing that Haggett was going to sort of be concentrating more on getting that line right, anticipated it to be a bit straighter. And a big sweep shot over the top of square leg.
Happy with one to mid-wicket here. Will they consider a second? They won't. So he's 58 now. Good to see as he throws his head back. He feels like he might have missed an opportunity to go big with consecutive deliveries.
Cricketers always chastising themselves. It's one of the quirks of the game. Never quite happy.
Yeah, he was really important, wasn't he, on that final day at Radlett against Sussex. Haggett bowls to Gubbins, beats him with a slow one. Eskenazi was out in the 20s, but batted through that tough period as they were whittling down the required runs to go. I think he was probably dismissed with 40 or 50 runs to get. Did a lot of work in that middle session. Dancing down the track is Gubbins, but it'll be signalled a wide because Haggett, for the second time in the over, has missed the tram tracks.
Yeah, very erratic over here from Haggett. We've had wides down both sides.
I think he might have suffered from the gust of breeze picking up just as he reached the bowling crease. Certainly where we are, almost directly behind him, it felt that way. Goes again, wide of the crease. Scooping and doing it so well there is Gubbins. Running away for 4. That's his 6th boundary out of 38. 6 boundaries in 20 deliveries faced indeed. Middlesex 130 for 2 after 13 overs. As we said a couple of overs ago, that 200 would be par from here really, given how well they've laid this foundation. But if they can keep finding the boundary as regularly as they have in the last couple of overs, maybe we're looking at a real big one here.
Yeah, 11 per over in the last 5. That's really good signs from the Middlesex duo. Partnership up at 70. Happy days for the home fans.
Yeah, a couple of wides helped them along in that over. So 7 to go, run rate. Not hard to work out. 13 overs gone. 130 runs on the board. An even 10. There'll be some overs of spin between now and the death. Blake, who's being trusted to bowl his first of the afternoon here. Alex Blake, a lot of experience. So 119th T20 today. Sending down an over of off spin from the nursery end. The first ball is cut down towards Kiam at backward point. They take a single.
Yeah, that was wide and very short as well. I think Eskenazi was quite frustrated that he didn't pick up more for that.
Blake going around the wicket to Gubbins. Tries to hoik him through mid-wicket, inside edge, to the man on the 45. Another single. So 2 singles to start this, the 14th over. Fuller and Eskenazi goes down towards long off, so 3 singles now. Kent would take that after their last couple of overs. With Gubbins on strike, we have a deep square leg, deep mid-wicket, long on, long off, and a deep cover in front of the grandstand there. Blake outside the off stump. Gubbins timing it nicely through cover. There'll be at least 2. They come back for that second run. Gubbins now into the 40s. He's 41. Middlesex 135 for 2. Couple to go in the 14th. Blake to Gubbins. Oh, delicate again. Past short third. They'll come back for 2. Just waited on that till the last possible moment. From our angle, looked like he steered it in that direction intentionally. Was that your assessment as well, Isabel?
Yeah, I think so. And a really frustrating one there for the bowler as well, because you've bowled nice line length and you think you're there close. But then it just runs away. No fault of your own almost, but that's the beauty and the annoyance of cricket.
So 7 off it so far. Last ball, a fraction short of Gubbins, swing and a miss, deflects off the pad out towards the offside, collected by Robinson. So a good over that for Kent. Blake going for just the 7. 6 overs to go. Middlesex 137 for 2. Eskenazi is 60 off 39. Gubbins 43 off 24. This pair came together 1 ball into the 7th over with the score on 56. So just at the end of the power play into that middle over section, and they've taken us all the way to the death overs here now. So they've done a good job through the middle section, the middle 8 overs. Can they now stick the landing? Kayam bowling here. Dancing forward down the track is Eskenazi before adjusting and slapping out to deep point for a couple. Placing that really well. The sweeper out at deep cover rather than deep point. 139 for 2. Eskenazi 62. This time sweeping hard and timing it and placing it magnificently. Eskenazi's having a fantastic time of it here. He's now 66 from 41. That's his 6th boundary. Hit a 6 in that direction as well.
Yeah, to get that placement just right, because you've got 2 boundary fielders who are quite close to each other, the square leg and the mid-wicket.
He bisected them, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Kayam to the crease, bowls Eskenazi. Pushes to point. Gives the strike back to Gubbins. He's now 67. Yeah, that previous shot, the sweep shot, premeditated, but knew exactly what he was doing. He's very much in. Gubbins' turn. 3 out on the leg side. Around the wicket, Kayam. Out towards 2 of them. Oh, he's bisected them as well. There's a deep mid-wicket and a long on, and Gubbins has gone bang. He's 47 off 25. Quite superb timing. Didn't try and overhit it. Just where he needed to be in that gap. Gubbins, he's faced just 25 deliveries rather, and 7 of them have gone to the rope. He's 47. Can he bring up his 50 here? He doesn't. A fraction flatter from Kayam, collected in his follow through. One ball to come in the 15th over. It's been a good one. 2 boundaries, 11 off it so far. 3 still out on the leg side. Around the wicket, sweeping is Gubbins to the man at the 45 on the edge of the circle. They take 1. He retains the strike. He's 48 off 27. Middlesex with 5 overs to go. 149 for 2 with Eskenazi 67. I'll hand back to Izzy Westbury for the death overs as Middlesex push towards 200.
Yeah, really interesting to see how these Middlesex batters at the crease have played these first 15. There's only hit 1 6 between the 2 of them, but their rotation of strike, and they know each other's game very well. The placement has been good as well. You almost sort of forget that it hasn't come in quite so many boundaries as you might expect, because it's going along at a very healthy run rate indeed. 149 off 2, that run rate hovering just under the 10, of course, after the 15 overs played in this first innings. Looks like Blake's going to continue from the nursery end, bowling to Gubbins. Coming around the wicket. Just sighted there by Gubbins. Unusual to see. That's because it's a wide. And Blake not particularly happy. I think that was a tight one to have called. But the umpire spreads his arms, spread eagle to the scoreboard. Here he is again. This one is a lot straighter, and that one, I don't know how that managed to miss. That off peg. Big heave.
Yeah, well bowled there at the front of the hand, wasn't it? So that was just running off the index finger past the inside edge. Good change up.
Around the wicket, and Gubbins dances down the track, gives himself room, and plugs it down to long off. I think we're having one of those days where the weather forecast will give you one temperature, but then what you really want is the feels like temperature, which is probably about 10 degrees colder. Here comes Blake over the wicket, and this is a thick outside edge. I want to run down to third man, nicely fielded. The man here at third man, diving to his left there, Imran Kayam.
Well, good captaincy this from Bill Drummond to throw the ball to Blake. An experienced man, not a recognised frontline bowler, but just to steady things down a little bit after this Middlesex pair really did get on top.
Gubbins waits, and again giving himself room, and you thought they was trying to carve it into the offside. He'd managed to bat it into the onside, and it brings up his 50 as well. 50 off 30 balls, and it means that Middlesex are 153 for 2. 7 fours in that innings, as we said. Just the 1-6 between the two of them, coming from Eskenazi. But are we happy with this? Good rotation.
Yeah, they've put on 97 now.
Blake, and this is a reverse sweep, nice and fine from Eskenazi, and will that run away and beat the fielder down at the boundary edge? Indeed it does, and it means that 100 partnership then is up as well. So 100 partnership between Eskenazi and Gubbins.
Yeah, coming together, just 1 ball into the 7th over. They've only faced 61 balls together, batting for half an hour, 32 minutes, 101 runs they've put on together. Happens quick in T20 cricket.
It does indeed. Blake over the wicket and a premeditated reverse sweep there from Eskenazi. He had his foot in the crease, even though the keeper whipped the bails off. I don't think he left the crease at all there. But it's a dot ball at least for Blake.
Solid contributor, of course, averages 31, strike rate of 133, everything you want from a T20 player statistically as far as what he's been able to do over the last few years. But I suppose has an opportunity here. He would need to have a bit go his way, but there is potentially a century on the shelf here with 4 overs to go. He'd need to face at least, 12 of the last 24 balls, which you expect he would. That's half the deliveries, and given how well he's seeing them. But Gubbins will be on strike for the first ball of the 7/8.
Yeah, I'm going to see Fred Clarkson coming in from the pavilion end. Looks is going to be bowling over the wicket, left arm over to Gubbins. He's there on an even 50. And just tucks him up a little bit. And he turns it into the onside. They're going to come back for 2 because it was timed or not timed, perhaps enough that it really had to. The fielder out on the boundary had to really do a lot of work to come in and field from Zach Crawley there at long on. So 2-1 to start this over. Clarson's got a big black sweatband on his right arm, his non-bowling arm, as he makes his way past the umpire. Nice heave into the onside. Man out there. Settle for the single.
Yeah, 184 for 5 in Middlesex's first game of this competition. Now 160 for 2 in the 17th over, so well on track for 200 plus. It's a good start. Proof that they can rack up the sort of scores they'll need to make in order to progress to the elimination stages of this tournament.
Daniel Drummond, the Kent captain, just coming up to his bowler, having a little chat, a little word of where exactly he wants him hitting those areas. Let's come around the wicket and premeditated by Eskenazi into the stands at square leg. Really flat, beautifully timed. And it's hit the metal railings, in fact, that border the seats just at the front of the stand, and it's ricocheted back in. That's pretty dangerous, actually, for the fielder out there. It sort of came back straight at him almost. But 6 runs for Middlesex, 166 for 2, and Eskenazi moves to 78 from 46. That was rather beautiful.
Yeah, that was hard and flat. Grant Stewart, had he managed to get hands on it, it's a sort of ball that can really sting the fingers on a day like this. But in the end, it cleared that right hand and went over the rope comfortably.
Clarkson very wide of his crease. This one's not timed quite so well by Eskenazi, seeping underneath him. Much fuller delivery from the Dutchman. Biting wind up here. The commentary gantry, but a nice view. Here he comes. This is high in the air, down to mid-wicket, and I wonder if there's a man underneath it, and there is indeed, and he steadies himself. It's Zach Crawley there. And he slipped as he caught it as well. So to hold on to it, that was a very good effort indeed. And it means that Nick Gubbins departs for 53, Middlesex 167 for 3.
Well, they put on 111. Mentioned before, they batted all the way through those middle overs, coming together just at the end of the power play, and they've taken it deep now into, what are we, the 17th over. So 2 balls to go in the 17th. Gubbins was able to find the boundary consistently through the overs where the fielders are back, doing so on 7 occasions. He really was excellent.
2 wickets then for Klaassen as Gubbins departs. And it means that John Simpson, a hard-hitting wicketkeeper, makes his way to the crease.
In good Nick Simpson, we've seen, of course, in the Bob Willis Trophy, him able to play some very useful counter-attacking hands. He was there at the end on Monday when they struck the winning runs against Sussex. Tight finish. They're up against a strong bowling attack, but also the weather. A close, exciting game and finish, which means that Middlesex are still mathematically in touch of the final in that competition. But we now have this blast break, and if you like, and good start with the bat.
Eskenazi on strike as they cross, and this has gone right through, and there's an appeal for caught behind. He'd given himself a lot of room moving on to the offside, trying to whip it into the onside, but in the end it sort of passed his inside edge, I guess, and through to the keeper, and they just wanted to got a little tickle on that at the bottom of the bat, but he did not. So 167 for 3. It means that Simpson shortly will be facing his first ball with 3 overs left of this innings remaining.
Yeah, so 3 overs to go, 33 short of 200. In Eskenazi's case, 21 short of what would be a fantastic century if he can get there. He's faced just 48 balls. Been there from the get-go. Increased responsibility this year, of course. A serious senior player now, captaining the 4-day stuff and opening the batting in the T20s.
Matt Milne's going to take things up from the nursery end as we get into the business stage of this match. Simpson's facing his first ball, and this one is rocketed out of the field. My goodness, that's the first one that we've seen that lands in the stands. It's Simpson's first ball of the day. It very much is 6 runs over mid-wicket. That's a beautiful shot. That was launched.
A great shot, wonderful contact and placement and elevation, and also psychologically. I mean, Milnes will have to bowl this over and over 20. You'd expect that's how they've set it up, and just to land that blow at the start of the over, knowing that Milnes has a long way to go here. They've used a lot of bowlers. Kent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they've got options. The only bowler to get through his 4 is the spinner Khayyam, but you'd expect that Stewart or Klaassen will finish off from the pavilion end, but those 2 overs from the nursery end will almost certainly need to be bowled by Milnes, who's been excellent this year. 15 wickets in the Bob Willis and 3 the other night to open the blast, but that's gone a long way, and Simpson continuing his form from the red ball.
Simpson shoulders forward, he waits, and he just prods this one into the onside. It's quite a wide, full delivery, and he's 7 off 2 balls. That's a nice tally.
Yeah, and Simpson was saying in the lead up to this competition that he sees himself at his best batting in the top 4 in T20 cricket. Was coming in at number 5 today, and an opportunity to drive Middlesex beyond 200 to help finish off what's been some very good work so far.
Here comes Eskenazi, advancing down the track, but he's hit it too well. Because it means they have to settle for the single as it's picked up cleanly and Crawley down there at square leg.
We're into the 80s now, Eskenazi. 80 from 49 deliveries. He's struck 7 boundaries and 2 sixes.
Simpson now on strike. Full, guided down, back at a point. But again, taken cleanly. And just at this point where I think Middlesex really do want to capitalise on that good platform they've got. It's not singles that they want now. So good bowling from Milnes. Frustrating bowling from Milnes from a Middlesex perspective. One right now back at 10s. Remember, it was around the 11-12 mark just a couple of overs ago. Eskenazi, he waits. And it's a slower ball. Whips it into the onside. They want the 2. They're coming back for the 2. It's going to be tight. And a dive at the non-striker's end. And that's good running.
Yeah, acknowledged by the teammates on the balcony as well. Simpson to the danger end. Got the dive in. Calling Eskenazi through. That's good batting.
Eskenazi, full toss. Races along the ground to Kayam there. At short third. And put a pace on that from Mill. Just came a little bit quicker up on Eskenazi than perhaps he thought. So 2 overs remaining. 179 for 3. Middlesex eyeing up that 200 mark. And I think they'll need to get to that 200 mark. So it does look like a very good pitch. It's run off the ball at the bat nicely. They've hit it. They've timed it well.
Well, fair to say it's a fresh pitch and plenty of time to prepare it. So you'd expect it to be a belter on opening day, if you like. Opening day at Lord's on the 29th of August. You wouldn't believe it had you said that. When the season ended in September 2019 here. But it really is a joy to be back.
So they're going to persevere with Fred Klaassen from the pavilion, and he's 2 for 35 from his 3 overs. So he's got the wickets, but he's been expensive as well. Daniel Baldrummond, the captain today, just manoeuvring through it a little bit, making fine legs slightly tighter. This is full. Played nicely into the offside. Come back for 2. That throws in at the non-strikers, and it's a direct hit, and he's given out. What a wonderful throw from the cover point boundary. He's made up a lot of ground there with that throw, and he only had 1 stump to aim at. And all you can say really there, poor old Eskenazi walks off the pitch on 83. He was eyeing up his century. He came back for what had to be a 2 at this stage. At that point, you don't necessarily expect it to wrap the stump straight up. And a lovely, lovely direct hit from the boundary edge. And a really important wicket there for Kent at this stage, just when Eskenazi certainly would be wanting to launch into fireworks. He hasn't been given the opportunity. So 180 for 4. Wonderful piece of fielding there by Kent, but you can hear as well as Eskenazi walks off the field. 83 from 51 deliveries, 7 fours, 6 twos. And a lovely knock from the red ball captain. But it means that Dan Lincoln makes his way to the crease. Right-handed batsman, and he's offered a short one straight up, but it's a short and wide one down the leg side. And Klaassen there's not happy with the call, but I don't understand how he can really disagree with it. In white ball cricket, it was down the leg side. You're pretty much guaranteed for it to be called one. 181 for 4 into the 19th over here at Lord's. Here comes Klaassen again. Red Souls away from us. Big heave ho into the onside. Means that Lincoln's off the mark with a couple. Got a short sleeve jumper on there, Lincoln. Chilly day. This one's launched up in the air. It's gone very, very high. I wonder if it's managed to land inside the ground. It has not. It's gone high and it's gone far enough. Far enough over the square leg boundary edge. And for a moment there, the man out on the boundary settled himself and just thought underneath this clouded grey sky, would it fall into his hands? It did not. In fact, it's gone for the search party up into the stands. We talked about one of the perils of T20 cricket in the COVID era we'd find fielders clambering up through the stands. But it's 6 runs. That's the important thing for Middlesex. 189 for 4.
That had more height than it did length, I think. Went a long way in the air.
Oh, definitely.
Lincoln. And certainly give it a wallop, can't he? Interesting backstory as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on the Reading Academy books. Goalkeeper, in fact. It's one of those where you think, oh, as a goalkeeper, would be a great wicketkeeper. But no, he bowls little right-arm mediums, I think, and a right-handed bat as well. But talented multi-sport all-rounder. We've seen a lot of those coming through these days, less and less frequently that they played at a quite high level in 2 different sports, owing to sort of the specialisation and the commitment that you have to make these days to your chosen code, so to speak. But He's certainly a talented athlete, and he's now on Middlesex's books, played for Berkshire. One of quite a few young Middlesex players who come through the Berkshire system, in fact. Good relationship with Middlesex. Klaassen left arm round, very wide and full. Just pushed into the onside by Lincoln. Moves to 9.
So 8 balls to go for Middlesex. 10 runs to reach 200. Simpson will fancy this.
That's full and timed nicely into the onside. They're eyeing up the 2 already. Lincoln has got down to the striker zone pretty quickly and comes back to the danger end relatively safely. So into the 190, 192. It looks as though that 200 mark certainly within reach. One more ball left of this 19th over.
Just a couple of drops of rain through the course of this over. Nothing to worry about too much, but it is in the air a little bit. Have to work our way towards the halfway mark of this match.
Klaassen's final delivery of this innings, and it's full and clipped off the legs by Simpson. And again, Lincoln super quick between the 2 wickets. Made it very easily indeed, and it meant that on both occasions the throw was going to the furthest away to the keeper, and on both occasions made easily enough by the Middlesex duo. 194 for 4.
That's quite the shuttle run from Lincoln. Getting through the 22 yards, and well, he was a third of the way back before Simpson had the chance to turn himself. Excellent short form cricket. So 6 away from 200, which is what they really have been trending on, really, through the duration of this innings. Since the end of the power play, it looked like they were on for roughly 200, so that'll be the first benchmark to hopefully tick off early in the over. If Lincoln can strike the ball as well as he did to start off, that massive 6 over into the mound stand, well, it won't take long. You can see that's what he's eyeing off. Deep mid wicket. So there's 3 out on the leg side. Can he pick out the grandstand?
So Matt Milne's going to finish things for Kent, and this is thrashed into the offside. A nice bit of fielding padded back in front of the rope by the fielder out there at cover point. Big ground made there by Jack Leaning.
Yeah, good stop. Didn't have long to react after the ball kissed the turf. It would have had a bit of water on it. I mentioned the rain in the previous over, so we had to adapt to where it bounced up and parried it down and kept it down to a couple. 196 for 4.
Here comes Milne again, gives himself room there. And this is placed nicely down to third man, but only for 2, because Kayam there is the fielder. But again, really good running. It's funny because he doesn't look as though he's going to be an absolute ace between the stumps, but he's almost up there with Gubbins, I reckon, in terms of speed.
Yeah, he's rapid. And well, what we've seen so far is that he can hit the ball a long way on the leg side and he can get resourceful on the offside. Good little asset, this.
198 for 4. Lincoln again gives himself some room, and he pulls this tightly into the onside, and they come back for 2, and it's 200 up. So there they are. They've reached it in the 20th over. They've got 3 balls left in Middlesex. 200 for 4. Lincoln there on 15. Simpson on 12. And that's just about where they want to be. Lincoln waits again, and this one parried over his left shoulder. Runs down to the boundary edge. It was straight, little back of a length, and he just shoveled it over the top of his left. And it means that Middlesex now 204 for 4.
Exactly what you want from a finisher, this Lincoln. In that he's happy to dance around in the crease before the ball's bowled. He's happy to adjust in the crease as it arrives. Of course, in the death overs, you're going to get plenty of change-ups and slower balls bowling into the pitch, short stuff, but so far he's had shown a willingness to play behind himself, I suppose, both on the offside and the onside, to open up 360, as they say, but also to hit the long ball when the opportunity's been there. 19 from 7 balls, very impressive. Still a couple to go.
Milne About to start the penultimate delivery. 39 off his 4 overs in a minute. Off his 4 overs so far. This is wide, and he's done well to get back to that. It's come very, very fine, just in front of third, and it's 4 runs. It's beaten the fielder. Had to make a lot of ground. We've seen consecutive boundaries there. 208 for 4. 1 ball left. What's he going to do? Very busy at the crease, Lincoln. 23 from 8. That's quite the strike rate.
That rain just getting a fraction heavier. Not heavy, but it's consistent drizzle now. Hopefully well timed in that it'll blow over during the innings break. 1 ball to come.
Mill to Lincoln. And a toe end. He was trying to launch that into the stratosphere. And I'll have to settle for the single to end the innings, but it means that Middlesex finished 209 for 4. Lincoln unbeaten on 24. Simpson there on 12. A fine innings from Eskenazi. He finished 80. He was 84 before he was run out at cover point. A direct hit from the boundary. But a really good effort there from the home side as we hear the hover cover warming up, making its way to cover the pitch with a little bit of rain as we heard splattering over. But I think Middlesex will be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, 209 for 4 at the end of 20 overs, and you really go back to that engine room, don't you, Isabel, with Eskenazi making 84 from 52 deliveries at the top of the list, but he was joined by Nick Gubbins, who made 53 from 33 balls, 1 delivery into the 7th over, so that middle period of the innings, and they took it all the way through until the end of the 17th over. They took the score from 56 to 167, putting on 111 while they were there. And for Eskenazi's part, his highest score in this format of the game was 57, is he? And now it's 84, and he was magnificent.
Yeah, and I think the really interesting thing of that that partnership between Gubbins and Eskenazi was that I think there was only 1-6 between the two of them when they were both in at the same time, and they were so busy. They knew each other's game so well. They were running between the wickets really well. And you didn't really notice the fact that they weren't just hitting the ball out of the ground the whole time. It was a well rotated strike, and they felt really comfortable together. And you felt they were moving the score along nicely. And I think it set up things very interestingly indeed.
And with Gubbins, 53 from 33 balls, 7 boundaries. I mentioned during the call that he had limited opportunities in the Blast last year, but certainly taking his chance at number 4, finding the boundary on 7 occasions.
Yeah, something we're seeing with the introduction of Stuart Law to the Middlesex setup is that I think that the players perhaps that would have once seen themselves pigeonholed in one format or the other are starting to get opportunities to play across the formats. And of course, alongside the fact that we've got the sort of the COVID era cricket, is that there are opportunities for the younger ones to come in. We saw that with Anderson. We're seeing it with Gubbins perhaps playing more sort of multi-format than he perhaps otherwise would. And even someone like Lincoln again coming in and seeing what he can do right at the end. That was a really useful innings for Middlesex.
Yeah, and Martin Anderson, I don't think we should forget the work he did inside that opening power play. 24 early on, finding the boundary 4 times. He's been a revelation in 2020.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed watching him through the Bob Willis Trophy, and I think that was that set him up nicely in terms of his confidence, just playing around the Middlesex setup. We saw him strike the ball really well in 4-day cricket, so you just think, well, he can do that in 4-day cricket, and then what can he do in white ball? And certainly we saw that today.
And as you mentioned before, Lincoln, 24 not out from 9 balls at the end, along with Simpson, who made 12 from 5 balls. They came together and pushed Middlesex over 200 to 209 in terms of the bowling for Kent. There were 2 wickets for Klassen, albeit conceding 50 runs along the way. 1 for Haggett, 1 for 38. And there were a couple, well, there was a run out as well, of course, the run out of Eskenazi, courtesy of Cox, who we'll see in a little bit. Now, Isabel, of course, throughout the course of the year 2020, it's been a strange year. I mean, the fact that we're here today at Lord's for the first game at this ground on the 29th of August is unconventional, but and there's no fans here, and it's noticeable. It's a weird place to have no fans here.
Ghostly.
It's ghostly, that's the word for it. But it doesn't mean that we're not ever so grateful for all of our fans of the Middlesex County Cricket Club who are at home watching today and have been with us throughout the lockdown period, and we've got a little video here to thank them for their support all the way through. Thanks to the Middlesex men and women players for that tribute to our fans and members here at the club. As you might be able to hear in the background, the hover cover is on. It is raining at Lord's. It's not heavy, it is frustrating, but we saw after Middlesex battered on Thursday, tallying 184, they were scuppered by bad weather. Let's hope that isn't the case again today. Isabel, Max Holden was quite outstanding on Thursday, making his first century in T20 Blast cricket. He's been a player you've been tracking closely for a long time, and obviously we've seen him in the Bob Willis Trophy this year, but taking it to the next level in T20 cricket now as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's someone who's sort of had tabs on over the last few years, coming up through Middlesex Academy and then doing a stint away at Northants. I think that was a really important spell for him, playing sort of first team cricket before he got really the opportunity to do so here at Middlesex, and then he's played some red ball cricket very nicely over the last couple of seasons, but stepping up to the mark in the white ball cricket. I think he had sort of perfect match, didn't he? You score 100 and then you're off. No need to field.
And here was Max Holden having a conversation after he smashed that maiden 100 in Middlesex's last outing at Essex on Thursday. And Night Frank, we can go. Let me go straight into Night Frank, but it's happening again. And we'll see it come up.
And then when I've got the graphic up,
I'll see it on here.
you'll see it. I'll give you a wave as well.
Thank you. Let's get the blankets in.
Yeah, it makes it quite different actually around the legs. I just realised that I feel alright up here.
I'll come back to you after the Max interview ends. So I'll wave you in when that's up.
Let's play up to this a little bit with the blankets, I reckon.
Just so exposed up here.
That's Max Holden talking to Kevin Hand after his maiden T20 century on Thursday. We're watching the Middlesex bowlers warm up in front of us here. Isabel, the good news is that the cover is off. The rain has stopped. It's very cold up here. We've both got our blankets on now as well.
Yes.
But I can see the Middlesex attack have got their short sleeve sweaters on as well. Player of the match, thanks to Knight Frank. So Knight Frank POTM is the hashtag. Knight Frank, of course, great supporters of what we're doing on the stream throughout 2020. Vote for the player of the match using the hashtag KnightFrankPOTM on Twitter, so Middlesex_CCC, or by dropping a comment on the Facebook page. So our player of the match, thanks to Knight Frank, who are supporting the stream all the way through this T20 Vitality Blast campaign for Middlesex, our home game supported by them. Knight Frank POTM is the hashtag. We can't be far away now from the resumption, waiting to see the players come out from beneath us here, but defending 209 in these conditions, it's going to be important for Steve Finn and his men that they get a good start, because it will get challenging with the wind and the rain and the stickiness of the ball. They'll be mindful of coming out firing.
Oh, absolutely, and that's one thing to add to the Knight Frank POTM player of the match. Don't vote for him yet, because obviously just one innings so far, and we saw some wonderful batting there from Middlesex. It's going to require some pretty decent spells of the ball as well, and to think that we only saw a fraction of the Middlesex bowling lineup in that match against Essex. Cummins managed to complete one over, Tom Helm the other. We're yet to see Stephen Finn bowl in 2020.
Of course, yes.
The T20 captain, we hope very shortly will be getting his first bow with ball in hand.
Well, yeah, so Steve Finn, Miguel Cummins, Nathan Souter, of course, was so important through the campaign last year. Tom Helm and James Harris will be the 5 frontline bowlers. But in the case of Harris, didn't play in the Blast last year. Souter did quite a lot, as did Helm. Cummins, of course, a new signing this year, and Stephen Finn, the ever-reliable, the skipper in this format of the game. But it has been a long time waiting to see Finn. Of course, hasn't been called upon yet in the Bob Willis Trophy. He was in the squad for a couple of games, but didn't get an opportunity. But he'll be keen. He'll be raring to go. His first game, his first hit out, will be on August 29. Would you believe it?
Absolutely. I think sort of going into the back end of the Bob Willis Trophy, and still no Toby Rowland-Jones, still no Stephen Finn. Lots of questions perhaps being asked. Rowland-Jones had a little bit of a niggle, a little bit of an injury, but Stephen Finn certainly waiting in the wings. It must have been a frustrating time for him, but certainly happy that cricket's got underway. Perhaps not so in these conditions. We had almost sort of a universal washout in the first round of the T20 Blast. Even the England game yesterday against Pakistan got called off as well. But today it looks hopeful. It's certainly grey and overcast. We saw a slither of blue sky earlier on, but the floodlights are streaming down, and the hovercraft is just trying to make up its mind whether it's going to make its way off the field. It's off the wicket.
Well, I think it's going to give itself every opportunity, isn't it, the hovercraft?
Yes.
The driver is going to wait until they're actually out on the field, because the rain is still threatening. I don't want to mislead you here. There is some there are some drops still in the air, but thankfully it shouldn't be strong enough to deny them getting a start in this defence of 209. Stephen Finn, 31 years of age. I think in my mind he'll always be a youngster, but he has been around for an awfully long time. He's played 104 games of T20 cricket. Averages 23 with the ball, goes at better than 8 and over. Of course, played 21 T20 internationals when he was with the England team, picking up 27 wickets at 22. I mean, even last year, 19 wickets came at 24. He still remains the attack leader for Middlesex.
I think for a lot of people that would have watched him in England colours, he's always been quite a sort of a young man in the team as far as sort of weight of matches goes, and he hasn't really had sort of really long spells in that England team. I think he's certainly not given up yet thinking about his England prospects, but for the time being he's got to show what he can do for his home county. And we see some of the support staff just make their way from the field. It looks as though the stumps are finally being placed into the turf, and the ground staff just hovering around the hover cover. And
for Kent's part, they should have won the other night if not for a quirky interpretation of Duckworth-Lewis. A correct interpretation, but a quirky one all the same. They faced 4.1 overs in their reply. The pass score after 5 overs was 26. They were already 51 or 52, I think it was, with Bell Drummond and Crawley starting brilliantly. But because they fell 5 balls short of reaching that 5-over mark, it meant that they were denied the chance to take full points, and they would have been understandably frustrated at that. It's not the first time we've seen in T20 cricket a scenario playing out in that way, of course fully within the playing conditions and the rules and so on, but I think it's a sort of cameo or example that might lead to a change in interpretation into the future.
Yeah, and hugely frustrating for Kent, who've got a young team who again, with Middlesex along in white ball cricket, are sort of flattered to deceive. And against Hampshire, who we know are extremely strong in white ball cricket, to have got sort of such a dominant position and not to be able to come away with the win by way of the weather. I think it's just one of those things. Playing in England at any point is a danger, but playing in England, especially as we're seeing so much cricket played in this late season stage. I mean, we're going to see, I think September is sort of jam-packed with T20 cricket, women's cricket. We've got Australia over here, of course, playing against England in that white ball series. So it's, there's a lot resting on it, but it'll be interesting to see.
We'll see Crawley and Belldrummond opening for the visitors. Both made over 300 runs in the Blast last year. Crawley made 307 runs at 28 and a strike rate of 145. Belldrummond, the skipper, made 317 runs at 26. Such experience, Belldrummond, as well. He's made a century in this format a couple of seasons ago, but 20 times he's passed 50 in the T20 Blast. Really at the peak of his career now, you'd think, at age 27, almost seen as a prodigy when he was coming through the junior England ranks. Had that pedigree, looked like he was going to get that chance, and indeed may get that chance in short form cricket into the future, but the leader of this Kent side now. Yeah,
really maturing himself into a sort of, as you say, an experienced leader of the side. For so long, a bit like we talk about Stephen Finn, is always talking about sort of the next big thing, or the youngster of the side. I think it's a good opportunity for him. I think it will suit him well as a batter. I think that he is somebody that, as you say, sometimes when you're talked about so much as a prodigy, you sort of you just run with it, and sometimes it pulls off, sometimes it doesn't. But to have that responsibility as well, it almost makes you think about your own game, and then you can go one way or the other. I think Joe Root, perhaps you could argue, has suffered from the captaincy on his batting average, but equally someone like Belldrummond, I think it's a really good opportunity for him, and I think he'll enjoy it.
As for Crawley, I mean, this time last week he was completing a test 250, 267 to be precise. It's been a big week for him, having gone from those highs and, of course, being part of those celebrations when James Anderson claimed his 600th test wicket and finishing that series, and then exiting the formal international bubble, back on the park playing T20 cricket on Thursday night in that washout, unbeaten when the game was called off. Took an excellent catch out there in front of the Warner stand to remove Nick Gubbins, wasn't it, to end their 100-run partnership for the third wicket earlier today. But he'll be facing the first ball here, and has ambitions, Crawley, of being a T20 player at the top level as well. His strike rate of 148 in T20 cricket speaks to that.
I've always thought it's quite a weird sensation coming from the highs, as you say, of that Anderson celebration, his own personal achievements with England, to an empty Lord's, windswept, grey skies, not quite the fanfare.
So it will be Miguel Cummins starting Middlesex off with the ball in defence of 209. Crawley, the man on strike, the men out on the rope at deep square, and looking for the second, third man. Cummins starting off here to Crawley and beating the outside edge to begin. So Cummins, of course, is starting off with the club in this form of the game, but he has been a member of CPL squads in the past. Hasn't played a lot of short-form cricket or T20 cricket, just his 11th game, but in the past has been called upon in the Caribbean Premier League. So certainly played in some serious games of short-form cricket. Has a slip. Bowling to Crawley. Fine leg inside the circle. He deflects to backward point. No run. There's Cummins, having played for St Lucia and Trinbago in that competition. Very strong pace attack for the home side today. Cummins, Finn, Helm, Harris, so much experience, and then followed in by the leg spinner Nathan Souter, who played all 14 games in the Blast last year, picking up 16 wickets. Cummins to the crease. Crawley plays and misses again. Tries to flick this through mid-wicket. But just enough movement down the slope, a little bit in the air perhaps as well. Good bowling.
Yeah, Cummins getting the better of him at the moment. Just not connecting here. Crawley, and you can see the frustration as he Wanders out to square leg. Cummins bowled that first over in that Essex match. Went for 5.
Yeah, 3 dots to begin here at Zach Crawley, the England international. Bowls again. That's the first run. Out through point. That'll do enough to reach the rope as well in front of the grandstand. Kent are away, courtesy of a Crawley boundary. 4 for no loss. They need 210 to win this second round clash.
Yeah, you feel so Crawley really needed that. He needed something pretty fast just to kind of loosen the pressure, get rid of the nerves perhaps. Not that one of those who you think, oh, nerves, how can this man have nerves? He scored a double century for England, but you know, we're all human, it all comes around in cycles. Every game brings its own nerves.
So third man and deep square outside the circle in this power play. Cummins bowls to Crawley, goes over the top of mid-wicket. That's 6 runs into the bottom deck of the tavern. Crawley goes 4-6. Beautiful strike of the cricket ball. So after 3 dot balls, Crawley's responded in kind.
I think that's just about where he wanted it, really. Struggled first up, but that's right in the zone for a man with very big levers.
It's that pick-up shot, isn't it? That simple technique that they talk about with Crawley as to why they've backed him in so heavily. Already being rewarded for that investment at the top level. He's facing Cummins here, who goes again over mid-wicket. Doesn't get quite enough of it, but it still goes for 6. I say not quite enough of it. Enough to get over the rope. Not as much as the ball before it, but ... 4-6-6. An eventful first over. 16 without loss. Kent chasing 210.
Almost identical place it landed in exactly the same row, in exactly the same sort of cluster of seats. Maybe 4 rows in front, so you can judge it on that. If it was a slight mishit, perhaps, compared to the other one, it was a 4-row forward mishit.
Yeah, it says a little bit about the strength of the man, isn't it? That it didn't sound good off the bat, but it didn't matter. It went a long way. A strong, tall, impressive young man, Zach Crawley. Middlesex will need to see the back of him early, no doubt. It'll be spin to start from the nursery end, courtesy of Nathan Souter. Mentioned he played all 14 games in Middlesex's 2019 Blast campaign, picking up 16 wickets, went at 8.4 runs and over, which isn't too bad for a spinner, all told. Men back at long on and deep mid-wicket. Bowling here to Bell Drummond, who places it nicely between those 2 sweepers. They'll consider a second. They'll get a second on account of a misfield.
Yeah, James Harris there just overrunning the ball almost. That's frustrating because it looked as though they just managed to confine them to the single.
So get off to a flyer. They're 18 after 7 balls. Bell Drummond making room to access the offside, picking out the captain at mid-off. That distinctive throwing technique of Stephen Finn's. Souter to the crease. Bell Drummond using his feet straight back down the ground. Is he straight enough to beat long on? He is. It's parried over the rope. So Bell Drummond getting in the act as well. We've seen 22 runs now added in 5 balls for Kent after 3 dots to begin.
Yeah, Harris there just waiting for the moment to dive, but wasn't quite close enough to prevent the boundary.
Halfway through the second over, Souter bowls and Bell Drummond inside out over cover. Really nice shot. Back-to-back 4s for the skipper. He's also into double figures. Kent 26 without loss. In just a second over, they're taking full advantage of the field being up early in this response.
Yeah, beautiful timing there from the Kent skipper. We see power from one end and timing from the other.
All that experience there, isn't it, against spin, opening up the offside. They're moving long off back, Finn moving himself back, which means that a fielder needs to come inside the circle, and that'll be deep mid-wicket. So men back at long on and long off. 2 balls to come in this second over. Kent already 26. Bell Drummond goes straight over mid-wicket and gets another boundary for it. He struck that hard. Lincoln was the man on the circle diving to his right, but more in hope than expectation. Kent 30 for none Bell Drummond 14, Crawley 16. This is quite a start.
Well, we said that the pitch seemed to be playing quite nicely from the way in which Middlesex were playing the ball around.
Playing the field as well. There was a mid-wicket back, and that's clever batting from Bell Drummond. He's faced just 5 balls. Already found the boundary 3 times. Will he do so again? He certainly finds the gap between square leg and short fine. Running out towards the rope in front of the Plum Warner stand. They take a couple and they come back for a third. So 2 big overs to start for Kent. They're 33 for none after 2. Bell Drummond 17 at one end. Crawley 16 at the other, Isabel Westbury.
Yeah, that run rate there, just hovering underneath the 17 per over mark. That really is something that Middlesex certainly never reached. We talked about how we enjoyed watching Middlesex play the ball around, play in nice partnerships, but it certainly didn't see as many boundaries. And I think Middlesex, how many sixes do they have in their innings overall? Still in single figures. We saw 2 off the first over from Crawley.
So a change from the pavilion end. Cummins bowling just 1 over off the top. Tom Helm replacing him. Helm, who took 15 wickets in the blast last year. On the way with third man and deep square back. Bell Drummond past point 4 more. On the back foot. Superb timing. Just needed to place it through the circle and did exactly that. He's 21 from 7 balls. Kent, none for 37, or 37 for none, I should say. Well.
Yeah, 4 sixes throughout Middlesex's innings. If you think we've got, as long as Crawley's at the crease, I feel as though they could come in the matter of a couple of overs, really.
So the field stays the same. Helm to Bell Drummond, who plays pass backwards square. He'll at least get 2 there. I thought for a moment he might have timed it well enough for 4. They'll be happy with a couple. So he moves to 23. It's 39 without loss. We're just 14 balls into this reply. So after facing the first 6 deliveries, Crawley that is, Bell Drummond's faced the next 8. Both have got to start. Bell Drummond struck on the pad. Some respite for Middlesex as far as not taking a 4 or a 2. That spills out onto the onside for a leg bye. 40 for none.
Yeah, look at that. 23 from 9, Bell Drummond. And they need that breakthrough pretty quick.
Crawley, who struck his last 3 deliveries for 2 6s and a 4. Gets a chance again against Helm. Through mid-wicket. Nice full delivery. And the 26-year-old seamer. Clipped out to the sweeper. Gubbins does the work there. They take 1. So steadying the ship somewhat, Middlesex, after that flurry of boundaries. 2 balls to come in the third over.
Good response there from Helm. Just pitching it a little bit fuller. Trying to make sure that these 2 can't get underneath the ball and launch it as we have seen in the past few overs.
Helm to Bell Drummond. Oof. Follows him nicely. Bell Drummond making room. Backing away to try and get a chance to free the arms and go up and over the top of the offside where there's no sweeper, but Helm followed him, struck him on the thigh pad. Good dot ball. I'm onto my feet now, Isabel. It is raining and cold, and I'm gonna stay warm the best way I know how.
I'm just going to go into my cocoon.
You're going to hibernate.
Yeah.
You can give me my blanket.
I think a hot water bottle next time.
Last ball of the Helm over. Bell Drummond, high, top edge. It still might go for 6, and it does. Wow. The elevation on that. Into Drummond is 29 from 11 balls, and after 3 overs, Kent, who required 210 for victory, have already racked up 47 of them, 47 without loss. Crawley, 17 from 7. Bell Drummond, 29 from 11. Can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, well, we saw a shot like that in the Middlesex, and I think it was Lincoln. He hit the ball higher than it did go far. But it's quite a short boundary on this square leg side of it.
Yeah, that is the short boundary, isn't it? But off the bat,
yeah, it's one of those
so
things
high.
that, again, you can only judge a pitch after both sides have played on it. And I think we talked about how long the ground staff have had to prepare it here. And they've got a belter.
Time to put our computers away with the rain starting again. Cummins beginning his second over and striking Crawley, who went back and tried to lift it over the top of short fire, but was unsuccessful, copped it on the body.
So Finn has decided to put Cummins coming from the nursery end. He started off from the pavilion end, but interesting that we still haven't seen Finn himself take on the mantle.
Yes, there's 2 overs to go in the power play after this. Maybe Finn's saving himself up for those awkward middle overs.
Captain's prerogative, also possibly doesn't fancy it.
Yes, well, there's that as well. He may not. Cummins here in his second over, bowling to Crawley, who this time gets it past short fine. That's what he was trying to do the ball before. And he takes Kent beyond 50. Crawley's 21 from just 9 deliveries. 3.2 overs gone, so 20 deliveries into this reply, and they've already brought up a half-century stand in 13 minutes. They're not mucking around.
I've played games like this where you've got a batter at one end who just every single thing that he hits, whether it's an inside edge or a streaky shot, it just races away, and you just think, what can I do here? I mean, everywhere you put a fielder, it seems to get in between them. And we are seeing a change in field. It looks as though finally it's going to be pushed down to the boundary. Third man brought up. Square legs out there already.
Yeah, good modern batting, wasn't it? He targeted short fine leg, missed the first time, got it the second time. Now there's a fielder dropping back there. Cummins to Crawley, who makes room, shapes up to try and pop it over short third man, which would have been deeply frustrating for Finn after making the change, but can't get it away. Good response from Cummins, following him there with a delivery that was banged in a fraction shorter. Can Middlesex break up this dangerous opening stand? Cummins bowls Crawley through mid-wicket. There's a sweeper out there. They get one. They'll be happy with that. So 52 without loss. Crawley's 22. Got 1 ball to come in this, the 4th over. Indeed, 2 balls to go. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm willing this power play to be over from a Middlesex perspective. So Cummins turns at the nursery end. Bell Drummond again making room, adjusting in the crease, clipping through mid-wicket, timing and placement. Wow, what a shot that is. After shuffling back in order to open up the offside, Cummins followed him. And Izzy Westbury, what a shot that is.
Yeah, it's that kind of shot that as a bowler, I mean, I think Cummins there, it was full, it was targeting his toes, and you kind of think, what can you do with that?
He's done everything right there.
Absolutely, and it's just herring as a bowler. Smashed it to the boundary, really good batting from Bell Drummond.
Brilliant Bell Drummond, he's 33 from 12 balls. Another ball in this over, down towards third man. They'll take the single. Anderson gets the return in right over the bail, so they'll have to be satisfied with that single. So 4 overs gone, 2 to go still in the power play, and Kent are 57 for none. Their target's 210, so the rate they need to go out from here is 9.6 and over. Bell Drummond's 34, Crawley's 11. They've faced 13 and 11 balls respectively. Going at 14.3 and over.
Oh, those 3 dots right at the beginning of the innings, that was their lot. We
Yes.
haven't seen consecutive dot balls since.
Yeah, we've seen 7 boundaries and 3 sixes. Continuing to chop and change is the captain, Finn, bringing Harris on for his first over. He's bowling with third man and deep square leg back. The veteran bowls here to Bell Drummond, who goes big over mid-wicket. and into the stands. That's the second time Bell Drummond has got a big piece of it, pushing himself into the 40s. He's 40 from 14 balls. Kent 63 for none.
That's crazy, really, thinking that it was Zach Crawley who was facing that first over, and we saw him hit 4.66, and we thought, well, he's in good touch. Let's see what Bell Drummond can do from the other end. And my goodness me, this is what he can do. 40 from 14, as you say. And Kent now, having scored 4 sixes, have now surpassed the total number of sixes that Middlesex scored in their entire innings, and that might say something.
He almost checked the stroke too, watching it back. He made such great contact that he didn't need to completely follow through. Landed about 10 rows back in the tavern stand, exactly where Crawley targeted twice in the first over when facing up at the pavilion end. Harris running away from us here to Bell Drummond down the leg side. That'll be signalled a wide. So they've made 64 runs in 25 legal deliveries, Kent. Plenty of chat from the Middlesex fielders in the absence of crowd support here today.
I think I have to. They've got to really get behind their bowlers here, because they're being taken to all parts.
Harris on the approach. Bowls to Bell Drummond, and he swings and misses. Wasn't far away from off stump. That movement away from the right-hander. Just the way he was shaping up there, I thought he was going to go big again.
Well, it's in that vein of form, that touch that he's displaying, that he is just going to be able to swing at everything.
So men out at deep square leg and deep mid wicket, about 30 metres away from each other, patrolling that boundary. No one out on the offside. Harris full to Bell Drummond over the top of square leg. 6 again. It doesn't matter where the fielders are when you're striking the ball this well. Bell Drummond is 46 from 16 balls. He's cleared the rope on 3 occasions, twice in this Harris over, which still has 3 balls left in it. Bell Drummond's well on his way to a half century inside 20 balls. Remarkable striking. And the Middlesex Brains Trust gather at the top of Harris's mark. There's Cummins and Finn there having a chat to the right arm seamer. On that occasion, Bell Drummond was able to pick up a full one, and it did not matter that there's a man stationed right on that rope. When you strike at 15 rows back, will he go again? 70 for none. Harris bowls to Bell Drummond. It's shorter, slower ball. Knocks it down to mid-off, takes one. Cummins stops it. Moving forward. Whew.
Yeah, and you think that the half-century record in T20 internationals is off 12 balls. He's not that far off. It's off 47 or 17. Paul Sterling, there's one man that's hit a half-century off 17 balls under the 20s.
So Crawley's turn now. He's faced just 11 balls. He's on 22, facing Harris. He takes one behind square. That's all he will get. Tom Helm doing the fielding, 72 for none. So we have 1 ball left in the 5th over. Bell Drummond's on 47 from 17 balls. There wouldn't be many half centuries brought up inside 5 overs, that's for sure. The men remain out at deep square and deep mid wicket. Harris to Bell Drummond, who pulls through the onside to the right of the square leg umpire. He'll retain the strike. He's 48 from 18 balls. 5 overs gone. 1 to come in this power play. Crawley down the other end on 23 from 12. As I pass the baton back to Izzy Westbury. Can she find Middlesex a wicket?
I'm trying to repair the damage. Yes, Bell Drummond there, 48 from 18. Crawley, 23 from 12. How sorely do Middlesex need this breakthrough if they're going to get in with a chance of salvaging this T20 match between Middlesex and Kent, both suffering washouts in the first round. And I wonder here what Helm can do from the nursery end. Tom Helm with the ball, right arm over. Drummond there on 48. He's pulled out of his run-up. Towel protruding from his trousers. A bit damp, splatterings of rain here and there throughout the course of this afternoon, but nothing really to trouble the ground staff too much to put the hovercraft on in between innings. Sitting on it at the moment is Helm, right arm over. Here's Drummond, and this is down the leg side, and that will be called wide, perhaps a couple of times before it reached the keeper, and you just feel as though Middlesex running out of ideas and just trying to find things that perhaps don't exist. Find solutions elusive at the moment. Tight ring cordon on the offside. There's a deep square leg out on the boundary, long on as well. Here comes Helm. High back lift. It's past the outside edge. It's a really good bit of bowling. Just landed short of the keeper. And Helm there follows through as a little stare down the wicket. That was a good ball.
Yeah, just banging it into the pitch, running the fingers down the seam. Not sure if it got any real purchase, but just enough of a change of pace to deceive Bell Drummond. Amazing to think they still need 9.2 runs and over after this incredible start.
Bell Drummond, and this is banged nicely into the pitch. A shorter delivery. Oh, and it's a wide ball. He took a while to signal out the umpire, but it was just over the left shoulder of Bell Drummond, and I think, yeah, down the leg side. That's what happens these days.
That's the third wide of the Middlesex defence so far. All down the leg side.
Taps his bat. He waits. Oh, another attempted pull shot. Oh, it's a wide again.
Oh.
And that one was pretty tight. I always felt as though it had only just gone over the top of the stumps, but again, that's the way it goes.
Hard to tell from our angle up here, but just judging by the way Bell Drummond played it and the response from the Middlesex players, that looked a lot closer than the one before it. You can see what he's trying to do here, Helm, with Bell Drummond trying to jump around in the crease, but after taking some time to consider the decision, the arms were unfurled.
Held, Bell Drummond. This is Fuller, and tucks him up a little bit as he turns it into the onside, settles for the single. And we feel as though it's been a period of respite for Middlesex, but really it's just been a few extra deliveries. I haven't seen the ball ricochet towards the boundary.
So they still need 134 to win off 88 balls. Duckworth-Lewis pass score, well, they're well in excess of that. It's 51 at the moment.
Here's Helm again. Crawley on strike, and this is a Fuller delivery, and it's going to be called wide again. Again, such narrow margins. Helm trying to bowl to a really straight line, and each time just going a little bit too far onto the onside. And that's frustration for Middlesex. Because as you say, in a way, having looked at this duo batting at the crease, it feels as though Kent are running away with it. But it's not. Yes, they're ahead of the game, but not wildly ahead. It's still salvageable from Middlesex perspective, but they're going to have to really bowl their lines. And at the moment, Helm's struggling a little bit. This is pulled nicely by Crawley. Out to square leg, beats the fielder, 4 runs.
That's some shot. Picked it up, had very little room to move with a man at square leg, had to place it perfectly. But he's in such great nick at the moment. He's 27 off 13 balls, but again, to think that just this time last week he was compiling a Test 250. Fantastic striking. And there's still 3 legal deliveries left in this over because of the 3 wides.
Here he comes again. This one's turned, dabbed into the onside. Shout of no as it's fielded at mid-wicket, and a rare dot ball in proceedings.
Yeah, often it's useful to take the Duckworth-Lewis score as the who's in front figure, if you like, when watching T20 cricket. The fact that all of the ground staff are sitting on the hover cover, and I can see just a couple of specks on my screen again, unfortunately. So it's still just threatening to come down. It hasn't really done so with the exception of the mid-innings break.
Helm to Crawley, inside edge, streaky shot. Back at a square and easily come back for 2.
Yeah, we've been fortunate not to lose any overs as yet, but yes, it is one of those days where you would not be surprised at all. It's very gloomy overhead.
Just persistent cloud covering. You never know what might come down.
Feels like it's been persistent cloud cover for about 14 weeks. Maybe not, considering at Radlett 3 weeks ago we were in the middle of a
heat wave. Yeah, that was the last time we saw the sun, maybe. Helm into Crawley. Pulled, but not quite timed, and it's gone straight to square leg. Out on the boundary. And it means that Crawley retains the strike, hogs the strike almost, leaves Bell Drummond on 49 from 20.
What a power play. 85 added across that stretch. 14.2 and over as they have their COVID pit stop. The hand sanitizer gets run out to the middle, but Bell Drummond 49 off 20 in the power play and Crawley 30 off 16. So the field will go back, but the 6 overs we've seen so far, where the fielders have been, haven't had much of an effect on the striking of these two because they're just going over the boundary anyway. They're not worrying too much where the fielders are. They're backing their strength, especially to the short side of the ground.
What a lovely vein of form to be in, to not have to worry where the fielders are. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, my goodness. And it looks as though we're going to see Nathan Souter. He went bowled and over from the nursery end, and now he finds himself at the pavilion end. Right arm over the wicket, and this is wrapped Crawley on the pads. It trickles down to fine leg, and they come through for a single.
So Souter's first over went for 17. So Cummins has bowled 2, Souter 1, Helm 2 and Harris 1 in the power play. Finn yet to send it over down. So he's backing himself to bowl a lot in a hurry.
Fuller, turn into the onside by Bell Drummond. And I'll settle for the single, but it's brought up as 50. 50 from 21 deliveries. He just raises his bat to the Kent cohort behind him in the pavilion. It's one hell of an innings so far from the young captain, as this is shorter and pushes Crawley onto his back foot, plugging it down the ground for a single onto the onside. 88 for no wicket.
A good time for a player to be making an impression in the blast as far as international selection is concerned, of course, with 2 T20 World Cups coming up across the next 2 years.
Souter to Bell Drummond, and just guides that fine a third man, but Finn there makes his ground well, so a single.
And taking the words from Owen Morgan in his interviews before last night's season or series opener against Pakistan, he's very keen to see a lot of players in that T20 team in the next little while.
Souter, Fuller, played off the legs of Crawley and taken nicely by Max Holden down at mid-wicket. It just hung in the air for a long time. It was quite flat. You felt as though maybe it would just bounce a little bit in front of the fielder. But Holden steadied himself and took it low. And that's a really important, much-needed wicket for Middlesex. 89 for 1.
Oh, such an important catch. Just held his nerve, didn't he? It was straight down his throat, but it was flat, it was hard. That would have stung the hands no matter how much give was applied when the ball arrived. He would have known how crucial it was that he completed that opportunity to put Crawley down. Would have done an enormous amount of damage to the morale out there, but the flip side is that taking that chance means that they give themselves a chance to look at the Kent middle order, to look indeed at Robinson coming in at number 3, not the most experienced campaigner, and to start transferring some pressure back onto the chasing side. Remember, they did make 209.
Yeah, you just wonder whether that will just temper that momentum. New batter at the crease, imposing form of Crawley departs. And I mean, Jordan Cox.
Yeah, they've changed their batting order.
They did indeed. Is at the crease, so he turns that into the onside, just tucks him a little bit, but he's off the mark straight away.
That is quite interesting that Robinson was listed to come in at number 3, but Cox, who was down at 6, who of course, the 19-year-old's in fine form, making a first-class double 100, 238 not out just a couple of weeks ago, but he's getting that opportunity at number 3.
I think that opening partnership between Crawley and Beltran. Almost gave them the liberty, really, to be able to mix things up. Just play it by feel. Beltran, of course, the man out in the middle, so it must have been a pretty predetermined thing. They were going to be flexible with the batting lineup.
At long last, are we going to see Stephen Finn in the summer of 2020? I think we are.
Absolutely. Stephen Finn making his 2020 bow in this match against Kent in the 8th over. End of August 2020, and Stephen Finn finally is going to be charging in from the nursery end. So it's the new batter, Jordan Cox, there on 1, who's going to face the first Stephen Finn delivery of the year. And here he comes, right arm over, charging through, and it's full. Nicely whipped off the legs, but nice high trajectory as we're used to seeing from the T20 Middlesex captain, 91 for 1.
There's always been that debate around Finn as to which end he should bowl from at Lords, isn't there? With some wanting him to bowl with that natural angle down the slope, others believing that he's better suited to bowl from the nursery end, which he is here this afternoon.
Finn to Beldrummond, and this is cut only so far as Holden there at backward point. Well, as Finn has the captain's armband on, maybe we're seeing truly where he wants to bowl from.
It's a little bit of rain in the air. I see a few more drops on my computer screen. So as far as Middlesex are concerned, they need wickets to drag that Duckworth-Lewis tally down. It's currently at 73, so Kent well ahead.
Finn to Beldrummond, and he launches that over mid-on, a 1 bounce 4 onto the hover cover. It's a lovely looking shot. I don't even think he got hold of that completely, but he knew that Finn was coming hard and full at him, and really moved his front foot, made room for himself, and he moves to 55, 95 for 1.
That's where Beldrummond's been so clever so far in this innings, is that he's basically picking out where the fielders are inside the circle and setting up accordingly. That was always going to mid-on, no matter where Finn pitched it.
Finn to Beldrummond, full again, and played back down the ground, and again just over-pitched there from the Middlesex captain, and it is a 1 bounce 4, and I tell you what, it's only just a 4. Bounced just in front of the rope there, very flat shot from Beldrummond, and it means that they now rest on 99 for 1. Beldrummond 59 from his 25 deliveries, and one captain getting the better of the other at the moment.
In the slot, wasn't it? With mid-on and mid-off up, a length delivery gives him the chance to swing his arms, didn't miss out.
Consecutive 4s, what can he do here? Gives himself room and tries to flat bat it into the offside, doesn't quite get over the top of it.
Yeah, Beldrummond at his best is one of the most attractive players to watch in the country. Saw him dismantle Australia in a tour game a few years ago down at Canterbury, 2015, wasn't it? When he made an 80-ball 100. Looks like he wasn't far away at all from getting that recognition at international level, but continues to do so well in the blast for Kent, year in, year out.
Final ball of this over, and this one's just looped up in the air, but fallen safe in front of fine leg. And well, I say it's expensive over, but in the context of things, it's not particularly. 10 off the over, 100 up for Kent, 100 for 1. 48 deliveries, their run rate going just under 13s, and they're well on their way here against Middlesex.
Yeah, 48 balls for the 100. They're going at 12.5 and over. They need 110 to win from 72 balls, which, well, if Beldrummond bats for another 45 minutes, for another 48 minutes, or whatever it is the reply's been going for, 48 balls, sorry, they'll be just about there.
Nathan Souter,
he was good in the previous over, Souter.
To continue from the pavilion end, just dab down to long on for a single.
So in Souter's last 7 deliveries, he's gone for 5 singles and taken a wicket. So this is his 3rd over, a really important one. Needs to strike again.
Back of a length, and Coxhead tries to turn it around the corner into the onside. Doesn't get a bat on it. He'll get a leg by for it, certainly.
That Duckworth-Lewis figure is going to be a problem for Middlesex if they don't get some wickets quickly here.
Sauter to Beldrummond, and this is full and launched into the onside by Beldrummond. He's gone to the furthest point of the whole ground, to that mid-wicket area, and he's got 6 for it. He hits a long ball that did hang in the air. You just wondered whether it was going to reach that boundary before it dipped over, but it did. It did indeed, and it means that Kent 108 for 1. Sauter, shorter, flatter, nicely played down to third man, and Finn did some good work in the field there to stop it skirting down to the boundary edge. Beldrummond 68 from 30 deliveries, 109 for 1. Just patted back at the bowler.
Ooh.
And I think Beldrummond had been wandering out of his crease, certainly. Sauter thinking there that he had been in with a chance of a run out at the non-striker's end.
Oh yeah, he regrets not throwing it. You can see by his reaction. Beldrummond was out of his crease.
More floaty there. Fuller plugged down the ground by Cox, looking for the 2, and there's a misfield. Little fumble in the field, not a clean pick-up, and it means that they end that over with a couple. Frustration for the bowler, frustration for Middlesex, especially with seeing so many balls fly out of the ground. It means that the ones that aren't, they really got to be on them and pretty quick as well. So 111 for 1. This partnership already at 22 runs, and yet you feel as though Crawley only departed a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, Beldrummond's just playing the percentages beautifully. I mean, where he struck that 6 down towards the Allen stand and then into that long corner, as you say, because he's simply identifying where the fielders are inside the circle. I mean, it sounds like common sense, but it's easier said than done. He's executing beautifully.
Here's Finn to Beldrummond. He's flat batted it down the ground, giving himself room, and again, 1 bounce 4 back over the bowler's head. Beautiful batting, overpitched from Finn, and just got to wonder, it's just not finding that area quite well fit enough.
Well, look, that was premeditated, but look at what he's expecting. Finn's overpitched twice at him to finish the previous over, 3 times, as you say. So he knew on balance of probability Finn was going to go shorter. So Beldrummond backs away, opens it up, knows that mid-off and mid-on are inside the circle, and is able to flat bat it straight back over his head with a minimum of fuss and a minimum of risk. It's really excellent short form batting from Beldrummond.
72 from 31 he's on. Again, he's busy in his crease, and has he found the fielder here at mid-on? And a little fumble, but on the second attempt he's caught him at long on, and it means that Beldrummond, that incredible innings really, 72 from 31 deliveries, 8 fours, 4 sixes, a strike rate above 200, and the Kent captain has really set a platform for the visitors here. 115 for 2.
Fantastic from Lincoln to take the catch whilst running through. The long on was pushed back, and that was the ball that brought it. So the change of field, change of thinking, and Lincoln had to complete a tough chance on the bobble. I say a tough chance because he couldn't just wait. He had to run towards the ball, which is never easy in these conditions either. Swirling breeze at Lord's today. Executed the chance. The second time Middlesex have had an opportunity in the outfield. Both openers are now gone. And the all-important man, Beldrummond, after what was a superb innings, coming to an end on 72. He's broken the back of this chase, certainly got him over the halfway hump. But from Middlesex's perspective, they can now start again with 2 relatively new batsmen at the crease.
Oh, Finn has his first wicket of the season, and a much-needed one at that. There's Joe Cracknell, sub-fielder, taking a really, really lovely catch. Here comes Finn. And this is down the leg side. And I wonder if it's when he called a wide. It will indeed. Just very slightly erring down the leg side. Did well not to hit the wicket there. Cox on 4. And a new man in at the non-striker's end. Of course, they crossed in that Beldrummond dismissal.
I best correct the record. I thought it was Lincoln doing the work down there at long on, but it was the sub-fielder Joe Cracknell. So nicely done, taking his opportunity.
Finn into Cox, guided back at a point, and you can just feel a little bit more heart in this Middlesex fielding side, a little bit more voice amongst the fielders. They sense if they're going to have an opportunity, now is it.
Just glancing over at that Duckworth-Lewis number, it's 95, so they'll need at least a couple of quick wickets here to tilt that in the favour of the home side.
Cox waits down the track, back over the bowler's head, and this will race down to the boundary edge. Just giving himself a little bit of room there, Cox. We've seen 4 or 5 boundaries off Finn. The batter doing identical movements, making room for themselves, just waiting for the ball. And Finn just slightly over pitching. So 120 for 2, Cox moves to 8. Alex Blake, the new man in the non-striker's end for Kent, as Finn up to the wicket. Penultimate delivery of this over, and this is pulled nicely, timed. Controlled shot out to mid-wicket for a single.
On the overthrow.
Oh, and overthrows. And that's frustrating from Middlesex perspective because they just can't afford any loose singles.
Yeah, it's been that kind of performance in the field so far, hasn't it? 2 great catches, or important catches rather, on the rope. Safe chances when they arrived, but we've seen 6 wides, a couple of misfields, and now some overthrows.
Finn to Cox, final ball of the over, tucked into the onside. Cox very quick off the mark, but settles for the single to end the over. 122 for 2.
As we're seeing from Cox, it doesn't really matter when you're hitting the ball as well as he has been in the Bob Willis Trophy, or as he was a couple of weeks ago, changing from one format to the other. It's a lovely shot down the ground off Finn, who's conceded 22 runs from his 2 overs, but has the all-important wicket of Daniel Bell-Drummond. Can that tilt this game back in the favour of the home side? Kent still need 87 off 60 balls. That's still 8.7 runs and over. So the fact that Kent got off to an absolute flyer does not mean that this result is anything close to assured as yet. As Cummins gets brought back for a 3rd over, he's had 26 taken from his first 2, 1 from the pavilion end where he's continuing and 1 from the nursery end. On his way here to Cox on 11, who pushes into the onside, an easy single to Finn. 124 for 2. Now over to Blake, who's yet to face a ball. The veteran made 201 runs in the Blast last year at a strike rate of 149. Been around a long time. Three out on the leg side for the left-hander. Fine leg, square leg and deep middle wicket. Cummins bowls to him here. He pushes out towards cover. There's a single there. 125 for 2. Can Middlesex go bang bang? Cummins bowls and Cox deflects down to 3rd man. 126 for 2. Cox is 13.
Yeah, you can still feel that the Middlesex fielders much more buoyed with the departure of both Crawley and Bell-Drummond. And you know, anything above the 200 is a good total on whatever pitch you play on. So it's not over yet. Run rate required around the 9 still.
Cummins to the crease and bowls, and elevating over the top is Blake down towards 3rd man. 1 bounce to the fielder on the rope. Just for the briefest moment I thought he might have had enough hang time to create an opportunity down there, but instead they come back for a 2nd run. Blake's 3, Kent 128 for 2. Remember their target is 210. We're both rugged up on top of the pavilion here at Lord's. I've got the blanket around my shoulders.
Yes,
You've got your
drapes.
winter coat on.
You've got your gown.
It does look that way, doesn't it? Might wear an extra layer on Tuesday night. Cummins. Couple to go in this over. Bowls to Blake, who pushes out to cover. They stick with 1. Gubbins fires his throw in. 129 for 2. 81 off 55 needed. That Duckworth-Lewis pass score is 104. So Kent well ahead of that. I'm reading that correctly, aren't I? 104. You got better eyes than I do, Isabel. Would you say that's 104? Have I got that right?
What? The passport.
The red figure? I'm getting a nod from Izzy. I have got it right. As Cummins bowls again. Oh, he thinks about a ramp there, Cox, and pulls out at the last minute. A bit too quick there from Cummins, who we know can hit the radar up towards 90 mile an hour from his international career with the West Indies. End of the over. 1-2-9 for 2.
So now I see what you're doing there, because I thought, where were you getting all these DLS pass scores? Because you seem to be very quick on them. Because I'm looking at the scoreboard that is directly sort of in front of us, and I guess in a sort of wide, long off position. And the DLS pass score is just obscured by the stand on the right hand side. You wouldn't really notice it.
It requires looking at the scoreboard on the other side of the ground.
I know, and now I know.
Between the grandstand and the Compton stand, which is coming together beautifully over there. That's going to be quite the place to watch the cricket from when they're finished for next summer. Finn starting his second over, bowling here to Blake, who uses the pace of the ball and steers down to third man for a single. 130 for 3, 130 for 2 even. Blake's 5.
Oh, what a revelation to have another scoreboard at my disposal.
Yeah, so that scoreboard must be new. Because
yes.
I know we had one, obviously we have one beneath us here in the...
Yep. I've
top of the
never been
stand.
accustomed to looking at that scoreboard, it must be said. Normally have just one tucked underneath us here, and then the one, as we say.
And that DLS score might come into consideration shortly because it's raining again, just slightly, but this next ball's parried out to the onside by Cox for a single. He's 14, 131 for 2, but just a fraction heavier than it was a couple of minutes ago, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it feels like that persistent drizzle that can be really frustrating, actually. It's the kind of drizzle that would bar you from entering the field, perhaps.
79 off 52 balls, the equation for the visitors. Finn to Blake, up and over the top of cover. He's timed it really well to the deepest pocket on the ground. The diving stop is made. They come back for a third. Good fielding out there. Might be the sub Cracknell again. It's a long way from where we are. Or is that Lincoln? In any case, it's cut off what would have otherwise been a boundary. 134 for 2. Finn. Reaches Cox now, who makes room. Tries to slap him over the top of point, but instead it's a swing and a miss. So a better over this from Finn.
You just feel, you could hear the way in which that landed in the keeper's gloves. Real express pace there from the Middlesex captain. Thudded in.
Skipping into the crease here, Cox this time makes contact out towards deep mid-wicket. They take a single. 135 for 2, so Cox is now 15 from as many balls. Not quite the same tempo that Kent were going at a quarter of an hour ago when Bell, Drummond and Crawley were really putting the foot down.
No, quite. I mean, the run rate is still up above 11, but that required run rate is just sneaking up. It's around the 9s now, so it's still a good ask.
Finn bowls and Blake pushes to mid-on, knows the call. So just 6 from that Finn over. 135 for 2 is the score. The required rate is at 9.4. So they have just dragged themselves back into this, the home side. Sure, they're behind the DLS mark by 12 runs at this point if it were to rain, but
yeah.
As far as the work that Kent still have to do, it'll be interesting to see how they manage this if they were to lose a couple of wickets. They've overlooked Ollie Robinson so far, who was listed to come in at 3, but both Cox and Blake have walked to the crease before him. Of course, they got Jack Leaning as well, the experienced recruit who came across from Yorkshire this year. And Grant Stewart, the all-rounder, has a first-class ton to his name. It's Harris continuing now from the pavilion end, bowling to Cox, who takes the full delivery, low full toss out towards mid-off. Great stop there on the edge of the circle by Miguel Cummins. saved at least one. He's a bit proppy on his ankle as he gets to his feet, but really skipped across the circle there before putting in a perfectly timed dive. 136 for 2. Cox 16 from 16, yet to really get away.
Yeah, really good piece of fielding there from Cummins, scampering through.
Harris around the wicket. Finn moves third man a fraction finer. Blake makes room through extra cover like a bullet. A crack of the bat and a crack into the advertising boards. That was there in no time at all. 140 for 2. Blake's into double figures. Just opened up the offside nicely there. Didn't have a lot of room to work with between extra cover on the edge of the circle, Eskenazi, and the sweeper Gubbins at point, but nailed it. Here he goes again. Same part of the ground, and it's the same result. Back-to-back boundaries for Blake. He moves to 16. They needed that, Kent. 144 for 2. It leaves 66 from 45 balls. Harris is giving a little bit of width, Isabel Westbury.
Just at the time when you thought Middlesex were just trying to wrestle it back into their favour, keep a lid on things. This new partnership that haven't quite exploded the way in which the previous duo did, Bell Drummond and Zach Crawley.
So no change to the field. Deep point. Third man, fine leg, deep backward square, mid-wicket, the 5 outside the circle. Harris. Can he bounce back? Big edge over the top of the keeper Simpson. It's 4 more. 3 boundaries on the trot for Blake. He's 20 off 9 balls. Kent 148 for 2. Not a lot Harris could have done there, but the wind is at the back of Blake, who's struck 3 boundaries in a row.
Yeah, real frustration for the bowler there again, because you can't really say as though he's bowling particularly badly. It's just really innovative stuff from the Kent batters, making it very difficult to bowl any areas, really. Slightly over pitch or drive you. Anything short of a length and it's up and over the top. Or
so Finn goes back at long off. Third man comes up inside the circle. 2 balls to go in the over. Harris, it's full. Pushed out towards the sweeper at deep point. They take 1. 21 from 10 balls. Blake 149 for 2. Kent 61 off 43 is the equation.
Nicely executed slower ball there from Harris, and I think that was the answer. That was the one option that he could go after, and he executed it well.
So Finn was going to come up inside the circle at mid-on, but Harris has asked the captain to stay back at long on. So deep square, deep mid-wicket, long on, long off, and deep cover for Cox as Harris arrives at the crease, pavilion end. Another slower ball, right in the block hole, pushes one to cover. Nice little fight back that from Harris. The last 2 balls, much improved. He's conceded 31 runs off his 2 overs. Kent are now up to 150 in just 13 overs at a run rate of 11.5. But Middlesex do remain in this game. They're going to have to find a way to break up this partnership and keep taking wickets. But as far as the runs still to get, they need 60 off 7 overs. That's still 8.6 runs an over, it's no sure thing as long as Middlesex hold up their end of the bargain and can find a way to keep taking wickets. And that might be why Souter's back into the attack for his 4th over now.
Yeah, 35 runs now, this partnership. Really frustrating from Middlesex perspective, having seen off the 2 explosive batters.
Souter has 1 for 31 from his 3, but his last 2 overs were excellent. He went for 17 at the top. Bowls here. Oh, shout for leg before. Hard to tell from our angle whether there might have been an edge on that. It looks like there was, because there's been no leg by signalled. It's spat out to short third where Steve Finn did the tidying up. Cox is now 18 from 18 balls.
Yeah, it definitely felt woody. It was just depending on whether it came before or after wrapping the pad.
3 out on the leg side with Blake on 21. Souter bowls to him over the wicket. Up and high towards long on. An opportunity. And it's taken. Fantastic take that by young Martin Anderson on the rope at long on. Souter has Blake for 21. Middlesex won't lie down. They're in this game. 151 for 3. An important moment. A safe take on the rope. Martin Anderson continues to impress.
Really well judged there from Anderson. He just popped in a few yards in front of the boundary edge, all the while aware that he was quite close to it, but held on to that catch as he sort of jogged backwards and was well aware of where that boundary rope was. And under the skies as they are, completely sort of white-grey. I mean, I wouldn't want to be catching a white ball underneath any of this, especially how far and high they seem to be going at the moment. But that's something that Middlesex certainly can take away from this match so far. At least their fielding in terms of catches taken and held has been very good, very well indeed.
So Blake did his job as far as lifting the tempo when Kent needed it, 21 off 10 balls, but there's still a decent way from that finish line as Jack Leaning makes his way to the middle. A lot of experience, although more so in the 4-day version of the game, it must be said. This is just his 54th T20. A couple of half centuries. Got a job to do here. He won't be on strike though. That's Cox, who pushes Souter down to long on, takes a single, rotates to strike. 1-5-2 for 3. Making our way towards the final stanza here at Lord's. 39 balls to come, 58 runs needed. Cox yet to really break the shackles. He's 19 from 19. Leaning's yet to face a ball. Souter has 3 balls left in his spell. 2 wickets. He's been really important. He bowls here. Pitched up and driven, tucked I should say, into the onside by Leaning, who takes one. Picked up by Lincoln. Returned to Simpson. .57 from 38. Can Souter get his name in the book for a third time before he's done? 2 opportunities. He bowls here off the back foot, punching is Cox after making room in the crease. Collected by Gubbins. 20 from 20.
Mm-hmm.
Three out on the leg side. Souter, his last ball's turned into the onside to deep mid-wicket. That is the end of his 4 overs, Souter. 2 for 36 from his overs this afternoon, picking up the wickets of Crawley and Blake, caught by Holden and Anderson respectively. Kent, 155 for 3. We've got 6 overs left. Their target is 210. This is trending towards an excellent finish at Lord's, the first game at headquarters for 2020.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see as well. If you think how quickly Kent were off the mark, that part, there was a point in the sort of 5-6 overs where you thought absolutely no way Middlesex is going to get back into this, but so is the nature of T20. That once those 2 big wickets had fallen, that momentum just shifted a little. And you felt as though
an important over for Helm this too, isn't it, Isabel? He struggled with wides earlier on. He's been brought back to the pavilion end.
Yeah, so 0 for 25 from his 2 overs to date.
He bowls here down the leg side to Leaning. Another wide is signalled, so he's sprayed 4 down the leg side, all told, across his 2 overs so far. He has a fine leg, a deep square leg, a deep mid-wicket, deep point and a third man outside the circle. In the ring, Finn at mid-on, Cummins at mid-off, Eskenazi at cover, Holden at point. Bowling here is Helm. Over the top, down towards third man on the bounce. They take 1.
Yeah, nicely fielded, picked up cleanly on the bounce, and certainly they were eyeing up the 2 there, Kent. And just cut them off.
So doing it in singles now, Kent. Cox back on strike, 20 from 20. They need 53 from 35. They're going to have to up the ante again. The required rate is 9.1 from here. Helm running away from us to the crease. An attempted hook shot. Gets just enough on it. Almost had the periscope up there, Cox, but Not to worry as far as he's concerned. He's to 21 from 21 balls. Wasn't in complete control. Good short ball there from Helm. As that gust of wind spits across Lords, coming from the plum water corner of the ground, so blowing over Helm's left shoulder as he approaches the crease here. Down the leg side, and unfortunately for the right arm seamer, he's missed his mark again. He's bowled 5 leg side wides.
Just wondering whether I can get a wire up the lining of my jacket so that I can just sort of affix my microphone from my sheepskin jacket and then I don't have to move my hands outside. Or maybe it's gloves next time.
I'm still going with this fetching blanket over the shoulder number.
Yeah.
I saw Phil Brown taking photos of us during the break, so I'm not sure whether this has made the cut as well. To the crease, Helm, short again, pulled through the onside by Leaning. Oh, a little bobble there. Holden collects, he's bobbled it over the line. So, a comedy of errors of sorts there on the boundary. It was stopped, then it was bobbled, then it was stopped again, and eventually knocked over the rope for 4. Leaning picks up his first boundary.
It just felt as though his shoes there just stuck in the outfield and tripped him up almost. Holden. It's an unfortunate outcome there for Middlesex.
Tough for Helm, who just needs to get out of this over, doesn't he? 2 wides, now a boundary. He's had 33 taken from 2.5 overs. Gets to the crease, slower ball, struck nicely down the ground by Leaning. Back-to-back boundaries, that's a far more convincing stroke. On the front foot, straight and lovely. He's 11 from 5, Kent 167 for 3.
Such a horrible outcome really for the bowler. I mean, it wasn't again a badly executed slower ball there from Helm. But right all over it, Leaning. Real crack of the bat.
2 balls to go for Helm. Wide of the crease. Leaning, pushing into the onside. There's a couple of sweepers there. He picks out Gubbins, who does the tidying up. He's 12 off 6 balls. Going to have to do some mathematics here, aren't we? So Helm, they've only used 5 bowlers so far, Middlesex. They've not turned to Martin Anderson, who picked up 7 wickets against Sussex in the Bob Willis Trophy last weekend. But that is an option for Stephen Finn. Helm, last ball of his 3rd over. It's a bouncer, and it's called a no ball. Well, that's not ideal, to say the least. Opening up a free hit to finish this over. So no ball called, which means it's a free hit. Can Helm get out of this over? 40 runs already taken from it. Kent need 40 from 31. Helm bowls. That's a good slower ball. It's a dot ball. He needed that. 170 for 3. Cox 21, Leaning 12. With 5 overs to go, Isabel Westbury, let's see us through to the finish line. Middlesex have 40 runs to play with. Kent need 8 and over.
170 for 3, and that drizzle remains persistent. Irritating, if nothing else. And it looks as though we're going to have an unorthodox change of bowling, in that Nick Gubbins is being brought into the fray. That's something I was expecting, but maybe Middlesex are just looking for anything at this stage. Balls his offies. Here he is. Right arm over, and this is a dot ball to start things off, so Middlesex field is buoyed.
Well, I don't mind this from Finn. He needs to buy an over from somewhere from a 6th bowler in order to give himself a little bit of flexibility at the very death. And
here's again, dart-like, wide, and guided down to 3rd man. He's made it in between the 2 fielders. The chase is onto the boundary, and my goodness, that was timed. Because it meant that Finn has had to chase the ball all the way down to the boundary's edge, and the ball finally put him out of his misery, beat him to it. And that's a beautifully timed stroke there. from young Leaning. 174 for 3.
So frustrating for Finn, almost escorting the ball all the way to the right, but just stayed out of his grasp at all times. He was giving it his best shot, but really well timed that from Leaning. But yes, it feels as though Finn needed to get one over from somewhere at some stage. Could have chosen between Gubbins and Anderson. Went with the spinner.
Gubbins, straighter, prodded into the offside.
Not the first time that Gubbins has bowled recently. Of course, got an over in the Bob Willis Trophy last week. Unexpectedly.
Always unexpectedly. Here's Cox on strike. He thrashes it over the offside, drop catch. Extra cover there. Went in, went out. And Eskenazi there. Oh. We're talking about how Middlesex have taken all their chances in the outfield. But that one's going to sting both his hands. Leaning back on strike. Gubbins, flat and wide, slapped into the offside. Holden there at cover point.
That's going to sting, that drop catch, isn't it?
Yeah.
On a couple of levels.
Yeah. Cox on 22. Gubbins' final ball of this 16th over. This one's wide and almost chopped onto the stumps. It skirts down to short fine leg. And it's 178 for 3, 4 overs left.
That's a really good outcome for Stephen Finn, considering Gubbins gave up a boundary, that lovely cut down beneath us here. He got through the over, giving up only 8 runs, yet short, no wicket. There was that missed opportunity at catching cover, but 32 off 24 balls, and now he's got a little bit of flexibility with how he sets up these final 4 overs, the captain.
Yeah, it's funny, there's sort of unorthodox, surprising moves. I mean, they can go one of 2 ways. One is sort of a genius Einstein move, the other one is sort of, what on earth were you doing? But he's ended up with a former. That was a good outcome, as you say, for Middlesex. 178 for 3. Cummins is going to continue from the pavilion end. And this is pulled into the onside. Shouts of catch. It's going to be man underneath it. Falls just short of Gubbins there at deep square leg.
So close. Had he just given it one more club, as it were, Gubbins would have been right underneath that.
Just slightly mistimed pull shot there. Cummins into Leaning. Missed it. Through to the keeper. Good dot ball there from Middlesex. And just looking over, DLS pass score is 169. Kent now on 179. So not all that far away. Chasing down 209 for the win.
Good slower ball into the track. Just enough grip to deceive Leaning. High quality dot at this stage of the chase.
Cummins, Leaning, bounces it into the turf. I think bottom edge as he tries to pull it into the onside. And they're turned away from running 2. Just one more run. 180 for 3, halfway through the 17th over. Chasing 209.
So 30 off 21. As we said, Cox has not really got on top of Middlesex. In some respects, him being out there isn't detracting from the home side's cause.
Cummins. This is shots of catch for Stephen Finn there at mid-on. He's a tall man, he was running quickly to his right and he just couldn't get his hand to it. And it's just flown over the top of him and it's run down to the boundary. But you just feel we've seen a drop catch in the previous over. That chance there. Not quite a chance, but creating it at least.
Yeah, just Cox's second boundary, so close to falling to Finn. Now that the captain drops himself back to long on.
Run rate 11 runs per over. The required run rate just under 8. It's still an ask for these Kent batters. And a nice dot ball through to the keeper. Cox there trying to cut it into the offside, but it was too straight.
This has got last over finish written all over it, Isabel.
I hope so.
Don't go anywhere. We've got the close one. Cummins' last delivery.
Turned into the onside. The fielder's racing into the boundary. And good from Holden. He made his ground, and it means it's just one off the final ball. 185 for 3. 17 overs gone, chasing 209. We had a few replies coming in on social media for the Knight Frank player of the match, but hold off yet, I say. Still not quite there. Who knows what we can see in the final few overs. Stephen Finn's going to bowl his final over from the nursery end. 1 for 28 from his 3 overs. Cox on strike. Gives himself room, tries to guide it into the offside, gives himself too much room, perhaps. Doesn't get anything on it as Finn is positively jogging back to his mark. Finn again. Room again, and there's a man underneath it, steadies himself, takes the catch. I think it's Cracknell there underneath it. Or is it Lincoln indeed? And I wonder if there's a little issue here with overrate, and that's why we might have seen Finn running back to his mark, because instead of all the fielders coming in to celebrate, he's made them all stay exactly where they are.
Yeah, an interesting little passage of play comes to an end with Cox holding out to Lincoln. Again, well taken. That was flat. Nothing easy about that in these conditions, but Lincoln held his nerve, and Finn picks up a second wicket. And Finn taking responsibility at the death here, of course, into his third over, or rather this is his fourth over, buying the 18th. Then he's got some big decisions to make. Is it going to be Harris and Helm, who really it'll have to be, or will it be Gubbins? I mean, this is...
I was going to say, throw in another Gubbins over, right?
It's not easy. I mean, he's going to have 2 overs to go after this, the 19th and the 20th, and Harris has had 31 taken from him, and Helm has struggled. So 18, 19, 20, Finn bowling 18 at the moment, his final over. So a lot going through the captain's mind, I'm sure. And I suppose that the wild card will be if they go back to Gubbins. But a new man walks to the middle. That of Grant Stewart.
Yeah.
Who, as I mentioned before, has got a first-class ton to his name, an Australian with a Italian passport, which is how he's able to play over here as a local player. Useful.
Finn to Stewart, bangs it into the turf. Wide of off stump, but it's a dot ball. I like that.
Yeah, this is so well set up, isn't it? 25 to win, 15 balls are left. Steve Finn needs to get out of this over. Can he get another wicket?
Finn to Stewart, Fuller, whipped off his hips. There's a man trying to get underneath it there at deep square leg, and I just wonder if he was a few yards too far in front of the boundary edge, because it's skipped over him. Outstretched hand there, Nathan Souter on the boundary, running through to his left-hand side, and it just ricochets into the advertising hoarding. And that's frustration, because you feel as though if he'd perhaps been resting on that boundary edge, would he have come in and be able to take a clean catch?
Almost a no-win situation there for Souter at the far end of the ground. He's in a few yards, so they don't take a 2 on his arm, and it's gone just over his head.
Finn, and again, this one's pulled along the ground out to mid-wicket, and they'll pick up a single.
Yeah, we've seen the sweepers set themselves up about 10 metres off the rope on that far side of the ground throughout the course of the game, and that's the first time it's really backfired, I suppose, at a really unfortunate time for Middlesex, but they're still in there punching.
20 off 13. That's what's required of Kent. And this is pulled into the onside, off the hips. Just the one. It's a good outcome for Middlesex. So a single to end over, 191 for 4. Kent needing 19 of the last 2 overs. And this could be quite fun.
Yes, we've got the close one at Lords. We waited a long time to get cricket back here. But 2 overs to go, 19 to get. Middlesex now with 4 wickets and getting a look at Stewart walking in at number 6. Only faced 3 balls. So much will now rely on Leaning. He's 20 off 13 balls. He struck a couple of nice boundaries a couple of overs ago. Timing the ball well. He's on strike. James Harris has the ball in his hand. Big over this.
Harris, right arm over, full. And that's 6 runs. It's 2 full. Just whipped it off his legs there, Leaning. Backward of square, sailed over the boundary edge. And that's exactly what Middlesex didn't need.
What a shot.
Yeah.
Picked it up off his toes. The timing was immaculate. Into the mound stand, and that reduces the equation to 13 from 11 balls. And Harris, who's had 37 runs taken from his 15 legal deliveries, has to do something very special from here. I think first and foremost he's got to get rid of Jack Leaning, otherwise this will be game over.
Here he is again. Back of the hand delivery, full and straight, and turned into the onside. Leaning wants to come back for 2. Stewart turns him away. And that's a good reply for Middlesex.
You could see Leaning there. As soon as he struck it, he wanted 2, but charging in off the rope. They weren't able to get back, which means that Stewart's the man with the responsibility on his shoulders, and Harris does buy himself another little window here, bowling to the new man in.
Extraordinary batting gloves that Stewart has, all black it looks like. I've never seen anything like it.
Don't see that very often.
Here comes Harris, and this one's drilled down the ground. Only so far as long off, and they've come back for 2. And again, it's Leaning the one that's really pushing them to come back. Stewart almost caught unawares with Leaning halfway down the track, charging through, and it means that they've brought up their 200 for 4 of 111 balls.
Yeah, super running there. Absolutely brilliant from Leaning at the non-striker's end. Insisted on the second.
Harris, slower ball, flatter, fuller. Quite wide of off stump. Stewart there did well to get batting it. I wonder if he hadn't, if it would have been called a wide, but it means that with 2 balls left of this over.
Harris running back to his mark as well. They're obviously doing everything they can to get these overs in before getting penalised, and I wonder on the back of that whether Leaning will just try and finish it this over.
Here's Harris, and this is thrashed into the offside, straight to the fielder, who has to think about shying at the stumps but holds on to the ball instead. Finn there picked it cleanly, but by that point Leaning was already well down the other end, perhaps 202 for 4. That cut-off time is 4:55. We're on 4:55. So I wonder if they'll make it round in time. Harris, right arm over. And this is a big thrash outside off, and it's a wide delivery, and that won't help. Won't help the score, won't help the timing either. Harris jogging back to his mark. 7 off 7 required.
Yeah, Finn will be so frustrated that they're in this situation. 7 off 7. Over 8 all askew.
Here's Harris again. And this one's high in the end, the offside. It's going to land safely. Plugs a little bit in that wide extra cover outfield. And it means that they get 2 from it. So 205 for 4. And we go into the final over, and Kent needing just 5 to win. And they say you need to take it deep into the final over. The umpire's now coming to have a chat with Captain Stephen Finn, and I do feel for him at this stage because they've just missed that cut-off point. So 4:55 is a cut-off. Of course, 4:56 now, and the bowler is not at the top of his mark. And I wonder if they're going to be penalised for this. And I wonder as well whether it was the extras really that did it.
Well, there've been a lot of extras. Looking back at our card for this second innings, they've been all up 9 wides and 2 no balls.
Yeah.
So they've had to effectively bowl 2 extra overs.
So we'll hear the outcome of that in a minute as to what the umpires have decided. At the moment, 205 for 4. So what stands on the board, 5 runs required off this over, this final over.
And Tom Helm will have to bowl it, having struggled. He's had 40 runs taken from his 3 overs. He's been responsible for 6 of those wides and 1 no ball.
So it looks as Tom Helm's going to take the final over. Leaning on strike there on 28 from 16. Here comes Helm. This is fallen past the outside edge, and there's going to be a shot at the striker's end, or a little roll of the ball by Simpson behind the stumps, trying to run out Grant Stewart. Doesn't manage it. They come through for a single. 4 off 5 to win. Stephen Finn, captain there with his bowler. Stewart on strike, he's there on 10 from 6. Helm in, it's a full toss, it's down the leg side, it's called a wide. And that accurate probing bowling that's required at this stage is not materialising for Middlesex. Only 3 to win now for Kent. They've got 6 wickets in hand. And they have a full 5 deliveries left to see it off. Helm there, slightly stooped shoulders. Encouraging calls from the fielders. That's all they can do at this stage. Here comes Helm. And he's bowled him. Leg stump flying out of the ground, hit it deep in the crease. This game is still alive, Adam Collins.
It is indeed. So it'll be 3 runs to win. Sorry, I should say. Well, hang on. It'll be, yes, of course it'll be 3 runs to win with 4 balls left, as they 3 balls left. I'm just having there's a discrepancy on the scoreboard at the moment actually, but we'll clarify that. So yes, 4 balls to come when you account for the sundry. 3 runs to win, but you would say from here, Izzy, that it's going to be about whether Helm can hit those stumps again. Can he pick up another wicket here, which will be as good as a dot ball, of course, but as far as what he needs to do, he needs to aim for the stumps, as simple as that. If they get bat on ball, slippery outfield, men are out, of course, you can't bring the field in at this stage of the game, it'll be game over. So that's the situation that Ollie Robinson's walking into. He's walking in at number 8, having been listed to bat at number 3. So he's been relegated down the list as they've worked their way through this chase. Such a wonderful opening partnership, but Middlesex have just hung on and hung on and hung on, and we're into this final over. 207 for 5. Helm, who's battled both in terms of his accuracy and the runs he's conceded. 41 runs from him. He's missed his mark on 7 occasions, 7 wides, a couple of no balls. But can still be the hero here for Middlesex. A lot needs to go right, but it is still possible they can drag this out of the fire.
Here we are, 4 more balls left of this over. Helm into the new batter. Robinson on strike. He waits. Has a big fling and a miss.
Oh.
So a dot ball to start things, and you can hear around us the field of the Boyd, the Middlesex bench is Boyd. They're still in it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we said about half an hour ago we were destined for a final ball finish, and that could still be on the cards. 3 to win, 3 balls, and Helm now, having struggled throughout the course of his spell, he could be the man to do this for Middlesex. A wicket, then a dot ball. Robinson coming in at number 8. The young man has to find a way to get bat on ball, and has to do it now.
Helm to Robinson. Fill up, and again, another swing, another miss, another dot ball. 2 consecutive dot balls.
This has come from absolutely nowhere.
Repeat that feat, and Middlesex have won the match. So 3 to win, 2 off it, and you just seen the 2 batters converge at the crease, and you wonder whether it was just get bat on ball. Don't swing.
Well, how does Finn manage this in terms of where he sets his field up? There's two outside the circle, of course, at
Squeeze.
deep backward square and deep mid-wicket. Do they squeeze up with another inside? Do they take that risk? No one out on the offside. Penultimate delivery, 3 to win.
Here comes Helm Robinson. 2 consecutive dot balls. This is Fuller. And he's managed to dig it out, but only so far as mid-off, swinging around to his right. And it means that we are into the final delivery, and they do need 2 to win. And my, oh my, anything can happen on the final ball.
2 to win, final ball. We've got the close one at Lords. A fantastic high-scoring game here at headquarters. First game here for 2020. It's going down to the absolute wire.
Well, you wouldn't have
Jack
thought...
Leaning, he's on 28 from 17 balls. He's got the strike back. Only one man outside the circle.
The way in which Crawley and Daniel Bell-Drummond started things off, 89 for 1 in the 7th over was when that first wicket fell. That
So
partnership between the two, just powering them through. We've got every man inside the circle apart from on the leg side. You've got a square leg and a middle wicket kind of hovering in a 3/4 position.
Ooh, and they've still got the man in the 45 right on the circle as well. I wonder whether Cummins might come up a couple of metres as well. 1 run to tie, 2 to win. Last ball.
Here comes Helm, right arm over. Leaning's on strike, he's on 28. And it's through to the keeper. And they've come through for the single. And it means that we have a tie, because the shy back at the stumps by Simpson, trying to run out. Robinson running through from the non-strikers end, didn't hit the stumps, and it means that Middlesex, having thought initially that maybe they'd come through with the win, it means the scores are level. 209 for 5, Kent. Middlesex having made 209 for 4. In the first match back at Lords, Adam Collins, we have ourselves a tie.
We have a tie. What a finish. What a remarkable final over from Tom Helm. He sprays the leg side wide for all money. Looks as though he's lost the plot over the course of his 4 overs. He missed the mark so many times, but uprooting leg stump, getting himself into that 20th and final over. 2 dot balls, getting off strike Robinson after that. All the responsibility on the shoulders of Jack Leaning. He swings and misses at the last ball. Simpson gets a shy at the stumps, but Robinson following on, backing up, making his ground. If the throw had have hit from Simpson, who knows whether it would have been given out.
Well, that's what we saw from the Middlesex fielders. They were pretty much celebrating there, and I wonder if it was whether they thought that the throw was definitely going to hit the stumps, or they just thought, oh my goodness, he hasn't got 2. Maybe we've won this thing. They've pulled it out of the bag in a way, Middlesex. I mean, at no point really in this second innings where Middlesex in front of the game like that. We talked about that opening partnership between Bell-Drummond and Crawley. I mean, the shoulders were slumping, bowlers were going for 15 per over. It just looked like a lost cause really, and then we just had that slight sort of, actually it was Stephen Finn coming on, I think it was the 9th over. He came on just after the power play when he managed to get Bell-Drummond out as well, of course, and then that partnership in the middle order wasn't quite the pace that we'd seen from the 2 openers, and it meant that Middlesex never sort of thought at that point that he'd completely run away with them, or run away from them even, and Kent too, as we said, they just seemed to be on top of it all the way through. They'll be hugely disappointed not to have won that.
In the end, Middlesex have been saved by their outfielding. Now, there were some overthrows, there were some wides, there was some no balls, there was some opportunities missed along the way, one pivotal moment at extra cover, but Holden, Cracknell, Lincoln and Anderson, 4 crucial catches on a cold day, all 4 hits of them flat, and all 4 times they held their nerves. So that is the reason why Middlesex are able to split the difference and get a point out of that. You mentioned Stephen Finn's introduction. That wasn't going well after 1 over. He held himself back until the 8th over, and Bell-Drummond took full advantage, but he was the man to eventually get him by moving long on back, and it was the catch by Cracknell that opened it up. Bell-Drummond absolutely outstanding, 72 from 32 balls, 8 4s and 4 6s after he and Crawley put on 89 in 6.5 overs for the first wicket. Crawley, the first man to go, caught by Holden in the deep as well off the bowling of Souter. He made 31 off 19 balls with 3 4s and 2 6s. But in those middle overs, they were able to just keep Cox at bay. Cox made 29 off 31 balls, but by that stage, because Middlesex did so well with the bat, the run rate started escalating. But all the same, you come down to the final over and you feel as though Finn probably didn't want to throw the ball to Helm, given that he already got an over out of Gubbins at the very end. He bowled Gubbins in the 17th over, perhaps to avoid that scenario. Went to Harris in over number 19 in the absence of having the runs on the board to hold him back for the 20th, but it ended up paying dividends. An astonishing finish, really. It's high here at Lord's.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we saw that wide off the second ball of the over as well, and you just thought, it's going to go the same way. And I think to come back that wicket, that was a really beautifully bowled ball in that third ball to knock out that leg stump, and then everything, it was just, you felt as though they're still in it right until the end, and Middlesex there, a really good tie for them from a position where it didn't look very likely.
And a word for Nathan Souter. He went for 17 runs from the second over of Middlesex's reply. After that, he took 2 for 19 from his next 3. Along the way, picking up Crawley, which was so important. We know the sort of form he's in at the moment. And Blake, just at the moment when he was starting to put the foot down, he struck a 6 and a couple of boundaries, and you're thinking that Blake might be the man to steer Kent to victory. Well, he picked up him with his penultimate delivery, caught by Anderson out at long off. And Anderson didn't bowl. He wasn't called upon, but did the job in the field, obviously made runs earlier on in the power play. So everyone playing their role at the end, which gave them the chance for the split result.
And how can we forget the introduction of Gubbins? A sort of slightly surprising introduction, just bowled the 1 over, only went for 8 runs and had a drop catch in the middle of that as well. And it was around sort of 12th, 13th over when the Middlesex were really kind of desperate for something different, and he was able to deliver it.
Yeah, and from Finn's perspective, obviously he was using Gubbins in order to not bowl Helm again. I mean, Helm had just gone for maybe 15 from his third over, bowled 3 wides. It looked as though that was what it was there for. But instead of being able to have the luxury of using Harris in over number 20, the veteran, he had to use him in over number 19 because they only had 13 runs to play with. But so in effect, it worked in the end because the way that Helm was able to bounce back from kind of nowhere at the very end, knocking the off stump out of the ground of Stewart from the second ball of the last over, wasn't it? Then those 2 dot balls, 2 big swings from Robinson, who was meant to come in at number 3, got relegated to number 8, thrown into the deep end in the last over with 3 to get from 4 balls, swing and a miss. Finally he makes contact and gets down the other end, and eventually it comes down to the final delivery, whether Stewart could, it wasn't Stewart, was it? Last ball was Leaning, of course, who had been so important in that final 5 overs, and he swung and missed as well. So in the end, Kent have thrown that away.
Yeah, all the pressure suddenly back on those Kent batters. And then just go back to the Middlesex batting innings. Eskenazi and Anderson had a lovely partnership between the two of them. Eskenazi ending up with 84 from 52, but it was really the one with Gubbins in the end. He ended up 53 from 33. And it's interesting, so I think we were commenting right at the start, and I think Kent scored more 6s, or surpassed the number of 6s that Middlesex had scored in the first 4 overs of their innings, with Crawley and Daniel Bell-Drummond going really well. And you kind of thought, okay, I mean, they look nice, Middlesex. They're rotating it nicely. They look comfortable. They're batting well. But had they really kind of underestimated the past score on a pitch that was playing extremely, extremely well? And you felt like that almost throughout the whole of the Kent innings. But I think well played Eskenazi for his 80. Well played Gubbins as well. Really well judged from Middlesex in the end, and a really exciting time.
Yeah, Eskenazi 84 from 52 balls, his highest score for Middlesex in T20 cricket, 7 4s and 2 6s. He's the Knight Frank player of the match. He put on 111 with Nick Gubbins, who made 53 from 33 balls. The other contender may have been Nathan Souter for his 2 important wickets. Of course, Gubbins over as well, but the judges have gone for Eskenazi for his 84 from 52 deliveries. So thanks to Knight Frank for all their support of the live stream. They'll be back, of course, when we are back on Tuesday. So for the next game of this T20 Vitality Blast, it'll be Middlesex back here on Tuesday night. Izzy, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a fascinating day back at Lord's. The game is tied. What a ripper. Can't wait to do it all again on Tuesday night.
I think that's fully appropriate considering the summer that we had last year, that tie in the World Cup final at Lord's, a tie to start things off at T20. Adam, it's been a pleasure. Middlesex, congratulations, I guess. You could say the same for Kent, but a tie here at Lord's to kick things off in the Vitality T20 Blast between Middlesex and Kent. And we'll see you, as Adam said, on Tuesday evening.